After a 2-month absence, the focus shifts to the 7th installment of MNR with only 4 laps to set the field tonight around a cathedral of speed with the art of bricks at the forefront. We bring you a look at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the site of qualifying night for the return of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series with our coverage right here on Podium Esports. It's so nice to be back in action, and over the course of the night, we'll have so many storylines to bring you ahead of the Season 7 opener. And again, we are so excited to have you join us on Podium Esports, where in the broadcast booth tonight, I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll have Dylan Connolly join us a little bit later on in the show. Ryan Bauer, our producer tonight, he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. It has been a little while since MNR has been at center stage here on Podium Esports. We had the summer series wrap up a little bit earlier on in August, as I should say, around 2 months ago. Season 7, though, ready to bring the excitement. Next week, October 9th, is when we officially kick off the season, but tonight we'll have all of the precursor events to set the field for that race. The Dallara IR01's at Indianapolis Motor Speedway will have that be the marquee opening race of the season, and it's been a long time since February of 2023 since we've had an official long season go all the way to the next year. We're going to have the same thing here, and many of the combos, many of the favorites returning for Season 7. Of course, the next gens at Daytona will be right after race number 1. We, of course, have tracks like Watkins Glen returning with the Pro 2 trucks, a classic combo in this series that has ran for many seasons on end. That'll be returning on October 30th, right before Halloween. We'll have the trucks at Bristol. Some of the new combos we'll face this season. The GT4 Porsches at Long Beach. That's a race decided by the champion, Corey Heim, back in Season 6. He wanted this combo to be a part of Season 7, so we're going to have it. We're also going to have Wild West Motorsports Park, a dirt road course, make its debut here Monday Night Racing. And then we have all the classics, the Gen 4 cars making their appearance first in the summer series a couple of months ago. They've become a fan favorite for viewers and for drivers alike, and Ford Martin and the admin team want that to be a staple near the end of the season. It's going to be a big part of the playoffs later on in 2024, and then we'll end the season February 5th at the Chicagoland Speedway with those Gen 4 Cup cars. That race was a lot of fun when we ran it in the summer. It's going to be so much fun when we have it in the winter of next year. So with this qualifying format, of course, I have a bunch of drivers take on this center stage tonight, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And what more is there to say about the Brickyard? 2.5 miles, 4.023 kilometers, 9.2 degrees of banking in the turns. This track opened back in 1909, has been a staple of racing all over the world, whether it's stock cars, open wheel racers, GT cars, you name it. This track has hosted it all, and it's going to be the main stage and the challenge for the drivers tonight with these Dallara IR01's. It's a track that has been featured many times in the Monday Night Racing history overall. We've seen it happen many seasons on end, and multiple different drivers going to victory lane. This time it's only going to be one driver each on track taking care of business in a 4-lap average. And let's talk about that qualifying before we get through. I believe we have one of the drivers on track right now, and how about we kick it off with the man in charge of the title from Season 6 of the Pro Series, Corey Heim, the 3-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series winner in 2023, will come across to the line this time by. He will be the first of many drivers taking their time as of right now. Cross to the line, lap number 1, and it will clock in at around 245 miles an hour. Really quick here around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. With these Dallara IR01's, I mean, they have so much downforce, they have so much power with the V10 engines pretty much prowling at the rear end of this race car. Gives it so much longevity on the straights and gives it such a beautiful sound when it's at full song. This is the first official lap for Heim, defending series champion. He's able to hold on to the title at Homestead of Miami Speedway, and also was able to win a race or two in the summer series earlier this year. Cross to the line, lap number 1, 245 miles an hour, and that lap, it looks like it officially clocks in at a 38.036. So the defending champion with a tidy line through the first couple of corners, and that will take him through the first lap. So onwards to his second, still 245 miles an hour, entering turn number 3. And not a real paint scheme on Corey Heim's Dallara IR01. I mean, many of these drivers don't have proper paint schemes on these cars. You should expect that when we get the green flag on October 9th, next Monday. And as Highland crosses the line, this is going to be lap number 2. This one at a 38.042. So a little bit slower than the last lap by 6/1000ths of a second, but Highland continuing to keep a rather steady line. And something so magical about Indianapolis qualifying is the way you battle the track. Many times we talk about drivers facing each other on the racetrack and the drama that builds off of that. Of course, that's a lot of fun, but there's nothing purer in racing than facing the track itself and having to go mano-a-mano with one of the cathedrals of racing. As Highland will come across turn number 4. No mistakes out of the 11 so far. Rather clean lap this time, faster than his other two, 37.964. So as the car continues to wind laps around Indy, that car getting much faster. See him run a little higher in turns 1 and 2, right above that white line, something we'll talk about over the course of the evening. And once we bring in Dylan Connolly, we'll have a little more analysis and expertise as to the driving style you have to have here at Indianapolis. But further down underneath that white line this time by turn number 3. And the beautiful sound of the V10 coming across turn number 4. Final lap for defending champ Corey Highland. He'll cross the yard or brakes with a 38.026, his fastest lap on lap number 3. And that will put him first on the board. Looks like we'll have the next driver on tap. That should be Brandon Houff. And the number 9 machine, he should be next up on the docket. So we'll see him shortly come out from pit road. So a 4-lap average there puts Highland at the top of the charts, but obviously should not last for much longer. And Highland will slow it down, have it on the pit lane access road going into turns 3 and 4. And the defending champion with a lot of weight on his shoulders, the Marietta, Georgia native, of course, knows what pressure is like, and he seems to overcome it quite well. Corey Highland going to take his car to pit road. We'll have the next driver up in just a couple of moments. So it appears as if right now a couple drivers on pit road, and as Highland comes back in, we'll let the MNR admins decide the driver that will be next. But on our list should be Brandon Houff in the number 9 machine, but as of right now, he has not come out on the racetrack. The Long Island, New York native, he's going to be out. So it appears that we are going to have everybody stop and have a little bit of a wait here at Indianapolis. So we apologize for some of the waiting here we'll have to do before we get everything settled out. And it appears, as we're hearing from admin Gary Sexton, we will have to relaunch the session. So it appears, I guess, the way they said it wasn't properly set up for 4-lap averages. It appears maybe Corey Highland will have to redo his laps, or maybe we'll just settle with it. But for now, you're tuned in to coverage of the Monday Night Racing qualifying night here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to coverage of qualifying night for the season opener of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series in season number 7. We had qualifying issues in this session, had to relaunch a couple of times, but we are back in it. We did see Corey Heim take his 4 laps. He's going to be able to redo them, though, just because of all of the technical difficulties. So after him goes the Long Island native of Brandon Half. If you've seen him before on Podium Esports, you'd recognize that he was one of the faces involved in the FrontStretch.com post-race show that we had last Pro Series and in the Summer Series as well about 2.5 months ago. Brandon Half going to take the green flag here for lap number 1. And if you were missing all of the coverage before we went under that technical difficulty break, we are going for 4-lap averages, so sort of like typical Indianapolis 500 qualifying. But we'll take the average of the 4 laps run for each car solo on the racetrack, and then we'll, of course, have that leaderboard set the grid for next week's season opener for Season 7 with these Dallara IR01's at the Brickyard. So out of turn 4, low in the 7th gear range for Brandon Half, driver number 9. He'll come out of the final corner, go all the way to the inside wall, and we'll cross the yard of bricks. His first lap, a 38.075, clocking in at 236.37 miles an hour. And Brandon Half, of course, will put himself at the top of the board. But like we saw with Corey Heim, we saw similar lap times, if not just a little bit faster, depending on the tidy line and the way you get out of pit road. And we'll go 245 miles an hour. These V10s screaming into turn 3. And Brandon Half, a driver we saw many times up at the front of these super speedway races over the course of the Summer Series about 2 or so months ago. Brandon Half, a lot of talent behind the wheel. I'm very excited for what he can provide for Grit Esports and company this season. We'll cross the line second time by. This one a little bit faster, 38.007. A little faster at around 236.798 miles an hour. And the best part about these qualifying sessions, especially over 4 laps, is you don't get the 1-lap miracle or the 1-lap hot lap setter that you would have at normal qualifying sessions on iRacing. You get those 4 laps to strut your stuff and be as consistent as possible. It's part of the miracle of the type of qualifying we have here at Indianapolis with the 4-lap average. This will be the 3rd lap at around 240 miles an hour, approaching the yard of bricks. Brandon Half this time by a 38.060. So that'll be a little slower than the last lap, 236.469 miles an hour. That currently puts his average speed at 236.547. So Brandon Half will set the tone early as you get a little bit off the wall, trying to reduce the drag there on the back straightaway. Very long backstretch, and in the draft, you could easily go 250 miles an hour. A little bit of a bobble there in turns 3 and 4. For Half, you'll have a tidier line in turn 4. Come out of the final corner. This is his final lap. Checkered flag in the air. First 4-lap average done here from Indianapolis, and that will be a 38.060. So similar times to what he set on the lap before. Actually, 0.77 as a matter of fact. Apologies for that. So that'll put his average at around 236.501. And Brandon Half in the number 9 puts in the first time so far here from the yard of bricks. Next up will be the driver of the 39, the Tampa, Florida native of Chase Cavery. We saw Chase do a lot of magnificent stuff in Season 6 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. At the time, it was a 2-win season for Cavery. His most recent coming with the super late models at Richmond, but did find himself in a position to win with the next gens at Daytona 2007 back on August 7th in the Summer Series. So Chase, we know how good of a driver he is. Made the Championship 4 in Season 6 of the Pro Series a couple of months earlier on tonight in his first lap at a 38.039. So not quite there to the level of what we saw earlier from Corey Heim before all the technical difficulties. He will get a chance to rerun. But for Chase Cavery, we'll round in at turns 3 and 4. You see that high-end 7-gear range is 235 miles an hour, and pretty much pushing that through turns 3 and 4 in these short shoots. 9.2 degrees of banking in each and every corner here in Indianapolis. So not that much banking to work with, and these cars with a lot of downforce still can push up the track. That second lap, 38.029. So the fastest time we see so far out of anyone, at least the 2 drivers that have gone right now. And you can tell just how quick drivers like Cavery and even Heim was, if you were watching that lap a little bit earlier on tonight. It was just a matter of being able to keep a really clean line here at Indianapolis, and of course keep as much speed through the corners as possible. And rounding out of turn 4, the 39 will go Chase Cabre. This will be his third positioned lap. Cross of the line, fastest so far out of the 3:38.023. So fast lap set by Chase Cabre puts his average at 2:36.653. This puts him at the top of the board by just a little bit over half, at 2/100ths of a second. And Cabre will push it to 3 and 4. A little bit of a bobble there in turn 3. We've seen that a lot so far with drivers practicing, and even so far in these laps. Brandon Half, I mean, that third or fourth lap, he wiggled a little bit coming out of turns 3 and 4. Now across the line. That's the final lap. Checkered flag for Chase Cabre, 38.005. So Chase Cabre to the top of the board early. We'll have the next driver come up, and that will be the number 4 of Brett Baldeck. And I mean, he's been a staple in this series for so many seasons on end. Brett Baldeck, the driver out of Rochester, New York, has been a part of the Dirty Air team for very long, and sporting the rainbow podium colors this evening. We're coming to turn 2, already grabbed the green flag, so Baldeck will be on tap for his set of laps. What a beautiful car this is. All the colors around this IR01, and you'll see over the course of the night, not a lot of drivers with paint schemes. Maybe we can touch on that a little bit later, but I mean, the fact that these drivers don't have that many paint schemes, it just shows how new this car is to Monday Night Racing. We should be able to have all the paint schemes from each and every driver be available by the time we get to that season opener on October 9th. It's a little bit of a bobble there in turn 1 for Baldeck, and way high off the racing line. Makes his first lap at 38.298. So rather slower compared to the top 2 that we've seen in Half and Cabre. Either trying to flirt with that white line, and even the curbing down there could get very dangerous if you get those left sides on there. And looks like Baldeck balances between being under that white line and being a little over by half a groove. And so Baldeck will come out of turn 4. This is going to be lap number 2 set, 38.292. So a little faster than his first lap by 6/1,000ths of a second. His last lap clocked in 2:35.036, average at 2:35.018. So not the best performance out of Baldeck right now, but still has 2 opportunities to get better laps here. And he's beautiful onboard shot, courtesy of our camera creator, Dougie Beard. Our producer, Ryan Bauer, doing a stunning job, as always, on the camera work and making sure everything looks good. And you really get a perspective of what it's like to drive these IR01's at a track this fast. 2:45 cross of the line. Lap number 3 for Baldeck, 38.118. So over the course of these 3 laps, it seems as though drivers are getting rather faster. And so Baldeck is starting to get in his groove. And they'll give the green flag to the next driver in line. We'll see exactly who that might be. But for Baldeck, he's going to get way into that sweet stuff there at the bottom, that curving at the entrance of turn 3. Get rather close in turn 4, but wave of the checkered flag here for driver number 4. Brett Baldeck will come across the line. His final lap as he crosses 38.192. So that puts him 3rd on the charts. And so far, the slowest out of the 3 we're seeing as of right now. Next driver up on the docket. How about the driver who picks up right where he leaves off from Season 6 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series, the Marietta, Georgia native of Corey Heim. We saw him be a 3-time winner in Season 6 earlier in the year. We saw him become a 3-time winner in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and put up a rather fast 4-lap average before all of the technical difficulties. But Heim, coming in as the heavy favorite, was able to pick up a win at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Summer Series. And Corey Heim, of course, one of the more dominant Monday Night Racing drivers to come in as of late. And Heim will have the weight of the world on his shoulders, being the defending series champion. It's always an interesting conversation when you talk about defending champions and how they can go back-to-back. And over the course of MNR history, we have never seen a 2-time champion in a row. So for Heim, he's just got a lot going on. And he's got a lot probably going through his mind. But I'm sure that he's calm as composed as ever. The Season 6 champion will come out of turn 4. And his first official lap will come in at 38.003. How about that for the Georgia native? Fastest so far out of any lap put in out of the 4 drivers. And that's how to set the tone early. 236.823 miles an hour. And for Corey Highland, that's a stunner of a lap for the first one. This part of how Highland becomes so fast. And it's such a beautiful line through 3 and 4. Not really rushing himself all too much, not turning the wheel too much either. As he crosses the line, this one, the fastest we've seen to date, 37.969 for Highland. He continues to get faster. That one at 237.035 miles an hour. So as you hear this V10 roar and it turns 3 and 4 for the 3rd time, this will be the 3rd completed lap, and he continues to get faster lap by lap. That one looked really good. Cross of the line at 38.032. So just a little bit slower here for Highland. It appears he just might have put that on to the 2nd lap, his fastest one. And next driver in line should be the Arizona native of Devin Henry. But it looks like we don't have him on the docket right now, so it appears next driver will be the Flying Hawaiian, Will Rogers, in the number 7, former Monday Night Racing Pro Series champion. So Rogers will come out of turns 1 and 2. He will find the pit road exit and to blend on the back straightaway. But as Corey Highland comes out of the final corner, his final lap comes in. Cross of the yard of bricks, 38.008. So the former champion with the fastest time and average so far, 236 rather, 0.823 the average for Highland. Top of the board for driver number 11. All right, next up here is the driver number 7, Will Rogers. And I mean, it doesn't really look like a open wheel-esque paint scheme that you'd see out of Will Rogers. It is a Ferrari paint scheme, but for Rogers, I mean, rather simple paint scheme. And again, I mean, talking about the drivers that do not have their own paint schemes for the IR01, many of them don't necessarily run it all too much in the sim. But Rogers, nonetheless, is going to try to get as much speed as he can on this outlap before he gets to the green flag. And for the driver out of Maui, Hawaii, the Season 2 Monday Night Racing champion, he'll cross to the line, so he gets the green flag. And he gets his first lap. It looks like this will be a 38.113 for Rogers. And as Rogers goes through 3 and 4, and almost got to the outside wall there, and you have to see him wiggle the reel there for just a little bit before coming out of the final corner at top of 7th gear. Will Rogers cross the line this next time by 38.094. And puts his average at around 236.199. So not as quick as the likes of Brandon Houff and Chase Cabry of the moment, but still faster than Brett Baldeck. Should put him at around 4th place right now. That's where you see him on the left side of your screen. And for Rogers there, a bit of a jitter there in turn number 3. I think that's really been the chaos spot for a lot of drivers, especially as they make these laps and as the fuel gets burned off of these IR01's and they get a little bit more loose. You see those cars wiggle just a tad bit more in this lap for Rogers, 38.067. So that one just a tad bit faster. That's the fastest he's put so far. Around 236.425 miles an hour. His average now 236.274. So it looks like a better run through lap number 4 for Rogers as his car, it's a little more planted through each and every turn. And to the start-finish line, the yard of bricks, final time, checkered flag for Rogers, and that is a 38.046. And that'll be the final lap for Rogers. He clocks in at 4th place, average of 236.345 miles an hour. So as we look through the leaderboard, we've got a couple of drivers not here, and so for right now, they're not going to have times put in. But for our next driver, it is the former Season 5 champion of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. How about the Cambridge City, Indiana, Presley Sora? The young driver has been stellar ever since his debut in this series. Was a Road to Glory entrant, was the champion on that side of things. Came right into the series with a bang, winning a couple of races, including one at Indianapolis here in Season 6. But back in Season 5, just set the tone for the rest of the field and was able to grab his first ever Monday Night Racing Championship. And so Sora looking for his second career MNR title this year. We've seen a lot of great stuff out of Sora and the way he's matured as a race car driver. Got to meet him in that Season 5 championship at the Carolina Esports Hub. And man, what a really nice guy. Had his dad there for the action. And just a lot of fun talking to him. And you can tell Sora has a lot of talent behind the wheel. He's got some work to do here on lap number 2. And so his first lap, by the way, at 38.027. His second at a 38.013. So slowly getting faster over the course of these 4 laps. And it seems to be the common denominator with everyone involved. They seem to get very fast, more comfortable with these race cars as they continue to put laps around Indy. So a clean run through turn 4. Didn't even grab any bit of the curbing there. This time for Presley Sora, cross of the line. This will be lap number 3. And that puts in 38.130. So not exactly faster than the other ones. That's the slowest we've seen Sora so far, the first 3 laps. About an average of 236.489. It could be a blur coming around here in Indianapolis with these cars that they're so fast. I mean, we had the Turn Racing Grand Prix iRacing Series happened at Texas Motor Speedway last Thursday, and those cars going around 245 miles an hour, around the same marker heading into turn 3. Those cars magnificently fast, no matter what over you put them in. And as Sora crosses the line, this is the checkered flag for him, 37.993. So the fastest that we've seen out of Sora tonight, 236.588. That puts him second, or rather third on the board for Presley Sora, right behind Cabri and Corey Heim. So next up here, driver number 24, Nick Olsen for Great Esports. And man, Nick Olsen has been yearning for his first Monday Night Racing win for a very long time. And unfortunately, it really hasn't gone his way, but he's had many close calls. And we're probably going to see a lot of exciting stuff out of driver number 24 here in Season 7 of the Pro Series. And as he comes around for his first completed lap from Indianapolis, you see the Jeff Gordon-inspired colors on his number 24. And it's interesting seeing the different types of lines being run through each and every lap. You see some drivers a little closer to the outside wall, some a little bit further off the wall. Some drivers are more comfortable getting closer to the curb on the inside of the racetrack. Others like to stay about a groove or a half groove up, like you're seeing Olsen do in turns 1 and 2. And his first lap at a 38.051. A little closer to that inside line for Olsen. And out of turn 4, he'll bring that DuPont Dallara IR01 through the start-finish line. And this time by, it'll be a 38.070. So that averages about 236.466 miles an hour. Just a little bit better than the likes of Brett Baldeck and also better than Will Rogers so far. At one of the slower qualifying times we've seen tonight. But of course, these drivers will have the chance to rerun if they elect to do so. So we might have at the end of the session some drivers who maybe did not show up and didn't get a chance to put their time in, or others just redoing their runs entirely and getting that opportunity to get back out on the track and try to improve their times. Is exactly like qualifying that you would expect to see here with open-wheeled cars at IMS. And this is the 3rd lap here for Olsen, 38.053. Seems to be almost one of the fastest laps, slower by 2 1/1000ths of a second. So for Olsen, he'll carry it through the back straightaway, turns 3 and 4, and that one really close to the curb, and that car shot up quite a bit in that short chute. And here into turn 4, 235 miles an hour, slowing down quite a bit. And it's all about consistently keeping up that speed. We'll see if Olsen can do just that at the cross of the stripe. This time 38.019. Final lap for Nick Olsen. He'll slow down his car and he'll bring it with an average of 236.542. That'll put him 4th on the board. And a nice opportunity there for Olsen. Pretty good qualifying time. And we'll have the next driver come up on the list. It's supposed to be Michael Fisher, and it will be driver number 32. Man, Michael Fisher, over the course of the summer series, saw a lot of great stuff out of him as a rookie driver, especially at the super speedways. Did a lot of nice work with the drivers around him, found himself at the front even when you wouldn't expect him to be there. And for Fisher, he was oh so close. Finished top 3 a couple of times on super speedway races. Boy, that was close to the outside wall, entering turns 3 and 4. And that's on the first official lap for Fisher. And so it looks like that will come in at 38.112. And I don't believe that Fisher actually got a first lap. It appears that his second lap, which was supposed to be his first, accidentally got taken out. So it appears he did not get a lap time set. And might have one of the slower average laps. We'll try and see if that average will ultimately clock in for that first lap. But unfortunately, no telemetry on that opening lap there for Fisher, and floats a little bit high out of turn 4. Almost gets into that outside wall, but will bring it across the start-finish line. Nonetheless, this one at a 38.062 for Fisher. So next up will be Monin Raman, one of the employees for the Venturini Motorsports camp, and a little into the curve goes Fisher right near the outside wall. This will be the final lap for Fisher this time by. And so the 32 gets very close to the wall. We're going to see drivers experiment with that quite a bit over the course of the night. But the 32 crosses the stripe regardless, 38.075. That's an average time of 236.326. So for Fisher, faster than Baldeck, but not faster than everybody else right now. So next up on the board is driver number 44, Monin Raman, a driver who made his first MNR starts in the summer series earlier this year. And Raman looking for his first full appearance in a Monday Night Racing Pro Series season. And for Raman, we saw some struggles out of him near the beginning of the season, but by the end seemed to have found his footing and was really able to knock lap times down and knock laps down with his teammates at Hawk Tamers. And for Monin Raman, very exciting first season for him, and we've seen a lot of rookies take this field by storm. And so we'll see exactly what the 44 can do here on this opening lap. First lap for Raman's 38.059. That puts in 236.475 miles an hour. Pretty fast lap there for Raman. And he'll come out of turns 1 and 2 and try it all over again. We haven't really seen anybody break the 37-second bracket other than 2 drivers. Corey Heim in the 11, and then we saw Presley Sora do it in the 98. And way up high goes Raman. And just clipped that curbing on the inside of turn 3. And it can get really scary once you get that a piece of curbing, because that car will get really unsettled. And it's all about precise movements here in these Zalara IR01's. You make a little shift in direction and all of a sudden that car is going to follow, just because of the amount of downforce that is on the underbody of this car. As iRacing made it to be somewhat of an open wheel Grand Prix style racer, they gave them so much downforce, but then gave it so much horsepower, at around 900 brake horsepower applied to this V10 engine. And a beautiful look at this IR01, and it's a clean paint scheme for Raman. again, not the paint scheme show out for the entire field tonight. It's a 38.057 for lap number 2 on Rahman's part. He'll go for lap number 3. And this time as he crosses the line, 38.065. So pretty consistent with grab the grass in turn 1. I believe that's going to slow him down quite a bit. They're going to have some other drivers come up after him. Next driver will be the 10 of DJ Cummings. And so he will bring his plastered Ford Dallara IR01 out on the racetrack. And so as Rahman will complete the final 2 corners here at Indianapolis for his last lap. We'll see what the average pulls out, but Rahman seems to be putting up a decent average so far. And around 236.467. So for Rahman, cross of the line, 38.104. Rather, 087, excuse me. So average is 236.425 miles an hour. A little bit quicker than the likes of Michael Fisher, but not quite quicker than the likes of Brett Baldick and company. And so next up on the board is driver of the 10, DJ Cummings. And of course, one of the pillars in Monday Night Racing history, one of the founders of the series, and one of the main admins that keeps this afloat every single week, the driver from Westfield, New Jersey. And you've got a Ford all over this Dallara IR01. We usually see him drive any types of Ford that he can, whether it's a stock car or not. And for Cummings, he'll cross the line on his first lap. That's a 38.111. So Cummings will bring it through turns 3 and 4. And this will be for lap number 2 on his time. We should have Joey Padgett, former rookie driver, coming up next, and Corey Deucer, Robbie Lyons, Dakota Curtis, and Josh Slay. Those are the next on the board. So for those watching here on Podium Esports and trying to see who's next, then we'll exactly clock you in on who exactly that will be. So second lap here for Cummings, 38.034. And better time this time by for driver number 10. And he's a multi-time Super Speedway winner. Cummings with a win with the open wheel cars, the American open wheel cars at Talladega, also with the winners with the ARCA cars at Bristol Motor Speedway a while back. And Cummings will round it out at turn number 4. A little bit of a wiggle there off the final corner. That's going to be a 38.029 for Cummings. And here he goes for his 4th lap, little high, near the outside wall. And watch how quick with it you have to be on your hands. And you see Cummings slowly fighting the wheel out of the final corner, but this will be his last clutch lap. Will it be any faster? Answer is yes. 37.998 for Cummings. 236.57 for the average. And that puts him 4th. So next up is former rookie of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series and stunner overall, Joey Padgett in the 83. One of the promising former rookies in this series, and was so close to his first career win back in season number 6. I remember the Xfinity cars back in Texas Motor Speedway, the legacy version, and just lost that race barely to David Schildhaus. And for Joey Padgett, he has been oh so close so many times. It's been the theme over the course of his MNR career. But slowly but surely, he has always found himself in the right place at the right time. So for Padgett, we'll see exactly what he can prove here in Season 7 of the MNR Pro Series as he rounds it out of turn number 2, his first lap at 38.115. And so this time by, second lap, 38.024, so a little faster. And around 236.693 miles an hour. I'm sure Paget, much like most of the drivers in this series, a little bit thrown off by this combo. It's the first time that we ever see this Dallara IR01 show at center stage here in this Monday Night Racing Pro Series. It's never been featured before. I mean, this car was introduced back in 2020, and even in that 3-year span, MNR and the admins at it really never decided to use this car at any type of speedway. But now that they gave it oval setups, I guess they wanted to experiment what it was like to bring the open wheel cars like these to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This one a little bit slower than the last, 38.048 for Paget. So he'll round out his final lap here on the back straightaway, 236.543, the mileage on that one. His average at 236.454. So Paget putting up a pretty decent outing, but not as quickly as we've seen some others put in laps here tonight. And if you're wondering, track temp at around 121 degrees. So I guess despite the grip that these IR01's have as they go quickly around this 2.5-mile rectangle speedway, it looks like they're still dealing with some handling issues. And this last lap will clock in at the same as the last one, 38.048 for Joey Paget. So Paget will be good enough for 7th on the board. You keep tabs on the left side of your screen. Next driver up, driver of the 04 IR01. This is Corey Deucer, among one of the new drivers to enter the MNR fold. And for Deucer, entered in the Summer Series a couple of months ago. And so still getting acclimated to the MNR environment, at least racing with the competition. Does have a lot of experience racing with these drivers over the summer, but officially getting into his first full-time season. It'll be the same note as Monin Raman and a couple of others in a pretty clean line out of turn number 4 from the out lap to the opener. This one will come in at 38.313. So not as quickly as we probably expected him to be, but I guess the speed slowly scrubbing off here for driver of the 04. And for Deucer, his lap currently puts him in 12th. And so we'll see what he can do. 246 almost entering turn 3. And for Deucer this time by, very clean lap. And that's what we've seen over all of the drivers doing their 4-lap averages. They slowly but surely get faster and faster each and every lap. And as he crosses the yard of bricks, this one at a 38.101, so way better than the first lap. Slowly recuperating. That lap clocked in at 236.214 miles an hour. So some wobbles there out of turns 3 and 4. Not the cleanest exit there for Deucer, and he'll come out of the final corner. Final lap here for car 04. That's his fastest now. Actually, that's his third lap, rather. 38.094 for Deucer. You see the average there on the left side of your screen, how each and every lap is going and how fast or how slow these drivers get over the 4-lap average. And it can be a really big mental game you play when it's you versus the track. And I've seen a lot of drivers get in their own heads about situations like these when they're all by themselves and they're all focused on just implementing each lap as flawlessly as they can. This one's slower for Deucer, his final lap. Checkered flag, 38.147. So for Deucer, his average at 235.826. So far, one of the slower drivers in this session. And unfortunately, we'll have a slower qualifying time. And next up is Robbie Lyons, former Season 3 Monday Night Racing Pro Series champion. And we saw him do wonders one of the last times we drove open wheel cars here at Indy. And Lyons had a chance of the race win with Adam Cabot. Was fighting him for every last bit of advantage they could get, and Lyons put on an absolute performance. The driver out of Seminole, Florida, comes into this with an interesting story on his hands. Of course, had that championship in season 3, but really hasn't been able to replicate that championship season that he put together a while back in 2021. And for Lyons, of course, a still very talented driver, but of course still seeing what else he can prove here in season 7 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. And 245 miles an hour, he'll get into turns 3 and 4. And his first lap officially looks like it clocks in at 38.244. So for the Vodafone-esque Dallara IR01, this is a Formula 1 inspired paint scheme back to the old McLaren days when Jenson Button, remember Sergio Perez used to start his career at McLaren with these cars. Lewis Hamilton, of course, made this paint scheme famous. And so for Lyons, really clean through 1 and 2, but a little off of that white line at the bottom of the racetrack. And his second lap at a 38.127. So that puts him at 236.053 miles an hour. Pretty good outing there for Lyons. So he'll come across turns 3 and 4. We'll see exactly what he can do this time by. Come across to the start-finish line. It appears most of the drivers are staying about maybe 5 or so feet off of that outside wall. They don't want any drag to come across the top of their machines, and then starting to slowly arc it back to turn 1. This lap at a 38.125 for Lyons, 236.066 miles an hour. And so average at about 235.816. Not a bad outing here for Lyons, but certainly would like to improve on his time. The next driver out should be Joshua Slate, if we do not have Dakota Curtis, who is set to go after Lyons, but appears he is not here. So it looks like Josh Slate will be the next on the tally. Final lap here for Robbie Lyons. Cross of the stripe, his fastest, 38.074, and an average of 235.957. That puts Lyons just outside the top 10. And next up will be the recent graduate, Josh Slate. We saw him graduate college a couple of months ago in 2023, near the end of season number 6. And so Lyons will clock in 11th. He'll go into the pit stall. And next up will be the 01 of Josh Slate. Driver out of Ashland, Virginia, co-founder of Behind the Wall Media, and pretty surprised that we don't see the Behind the Wall Media colors on the 01, but I guess today is really the test paint scheme era for these drivers. Not necessarily full paint scheme time unless finally we get to the opener next Monday night. And so Slate will finally get the green flag here off of his outlap. A pretty clean line through 1 and 2, but a little high there in that second corner. And for the weather, we're seeing winds to the north around 2 miles an hour. And usually at the real-life Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you'd see that wind becomes a very big problem at that turn 2 area. A lot of drivers have found trouble at that part of the track, and that car just gets really unsettled. They find themselves into the outside wall, but I mean, not necessarily a factor here this evening in sim. But the track temp still remains at 121, so it is blistering hot. 38.163 for Slate on lap 1. So Slate dives there at the inside for turns 3 and 4. So he'll find himself square out of the final corner, and this will be his second lap. And it looks like Slate just a little bit slower there on that first lap. It looks like it's a bit faster, but not by much. 38.141, that one at around 235.967 miles an hour. And so for Slate there, not the best qualifying time, and he's looking to at least fight for a spot in the top 10. Again, this is all going to set the field for next week's season opener here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So there's sort of a lot riding on the laps that we're watching here tonight, just because wherever you start, obviously, will play a factor for the rest of the race. These IR01's, it could be a little harder to pass on these ovals when you get into the draft and when you have to deal with strategy in a very long race. So, of course, track position is really going to matter, whether you're up front or whether you're all the way in the back. A little wiggle there, and almost to the outside wall goes Slate. but that third lap came in at 38.076. So slowly getting faster. Slate is, I guess he's trying to push it just a little bit too much. And for Slate, that was really close. We're getting to turns 3 and 4. Next driver up should be, like I said, that will be Reed Wilson in the 66. He'll be next up, but we'll keep an eye here on Joshua Slate. He'll get in for his final lap and cross of the stripe at the yard of bricks. This one clocks in at 38.072. So the fastest lap out of the 4 for Slate. His average at 236.140. How about we bring in one of the faster drivers over this qualifying session so far? It's P6 for you, Brandon Halfin. Welcome to the broadcast booth here on Podium Esports. Just talk us through your anxiety, I guess, anticipations going into that 4-lap average and how you feel went for you.
Well, I wasn't expecting to be the first driver out, but a couple of mishaps, I guess, with the server and all that that took place. But yeah, being the first driver out, I mean, I wasn't too nervous because I felt pretty confident. I was able to run what Corey ran there, 96. I was able to run that in practice, so I felt pretty confident. And I ran a 0-0 on my second lap, and I thought after that I was going to be okay. But it just got slower for me, and then I kind of screwed up a little bit on my 4th lap. I think it was in turn 2. I got off the corner really bad. But I know I could be a lot faster. I don't know what the whole redo situation is going to be here, but if there's a chance, I might try to do it. But we'll see where that puts me when it's all said and done. I guess P6 isn't too bad right now. But I do know I could be a lot faster, I think. I think my average is like an 0.5 right now, or something like that. So, you know, it's, this is pretty cool, I won't lie. I like this whole 4-lap thing, where, you know, average your 4 laps, just like real life Indy 500. But, you know, if I had a redo, I know I could do a little bit better, but I guess I can't complain. P6 out of what, like, I think 13, 14 right now, so, yeah, not too bad.
It's a pretty good qualifying effort for you overall, but talk about this Dallara IR01. I mean, it's the first time that Monday Night Race sees it in its entire history. It's a new car for a lot of the drivers in this series. What did you feel behind the wheel and the things you kind of had to get used to in this car? I mean, it's 900 horsepower V10. Sounds good, but I'm sure behind the wheel it's a very different story.
Yeah, it's crazy because I only ran these things once before, and I think it was like the first day it came out, whenever it did a couple of years ago. And yeah, I did all the practice I could, and I felt pretty comfortable. First impression, though, was these things are quick. And I wasn't able to do any draft practice, but I was watching a little bit, and I saw, I think, get up to like 257, 258, which is insane. But they're a handful, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of twitchy, the steering. You can kind of mess with the steering box a little bit and see, you know, what feels comfortable. But they're not easy. You gotta hold a pretty wheel here, and you know, like we see on track right now with Reed, it's not very easy. You know, it might look easy from the outside, but being on the inside, you gotta hold it right. You gotta get the run off the corner. You know, you can't scrub off any speed, or else you're gonna lose that 100 to 200s or whatever. But yeah, these things are quick, and you know, race condition obviously is going to be a lot different than what qualifying is. It's probably going to be a little bit of an aero push, maybe not. I don't know, again, because I haven't raced them. But if it's anything like an Indy car, it's going to be a fun race to watch. And I hope it's just as fun behind the wheel.
And I can imagine that the first race is probably going to be chaotic. Do you think we'll see a lot of that chaos come up in that first race next week?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, it's first race for the series after a little bit of a break, I guess you could say. I know not everybody ran the summer series like I did, and you know, they're all itching to get back. So you know, the first race is going to be full of maybe a little bit of antics, you know, but I'm expecting it to be good. See a lot of the regulars return, which is good to see. I've heard, and I don't know, you don't have to quote me on this, but I've heard this is kind of a pack race in a way with these cars, so I think that'll be entertaining. Will it be entertaining behind the wheel? Probably not, if it's a pack race like this going 250 miles an hour, but for sure, I think if you're a viewer and, you know, an outsider, it'll be worth tuning in for, and I think it'll be very fun. hopefully no drama. I think we'll see fun racing, hopefully, drama-free. And, you know, hopefully we, however many laps this race is, we'll all come out on the other end happy and pleased, although that's very rare in racing.
I mean, we'll see what happens in the next week. I'm sure that when I was watching the practice speeds at around 253, 255 miles an hour, I think I was starting to get nervous, and I'm not even driving. So, yeah. I mean, I can imagine how crazy it is. But Brandon, of course, we certainly appreciate the time, and we'll see if you're able to redo your lap a little later on this evening. But for now, what you've got so far is pretty good. We appreciate the time, and best of luck if you end up redoing your lap, and hopefully we get to see you at the season opener next Monday.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Kenneth. Appreciate it.
So that is Brandon Houff, driver of the number 9 for Great Esports, and one of the finer drivers in that summer series we saw a couple of months ago. Really cool stuff for Brandon Houff, and I'm sure he's excited to kick off Season 7 of the MNR Pro Series. Here's one of the hottest drivers from the summer series earlier this year, James Bickford for Charlotte Phoenix, former Championship 4 driver a couple of seasons ago. His last lap, 38.002. I'm sure not the overall qualifying effort that Bickford was looking for. His first lap was at 234.864. His overall average, 236.039. So for Bickford, I'm sure he's probably going to wish to redo those set of laps. But nonetheless, for Bickford, I mean, he's had so much success, the multiple wins that came his way in that summer series, where he swept the first 2 races with the Next Gen and Gen 4 series, then picked up another one with the Gen 4s at Chicagoland Speedway, and unfortunately did not get a win after that. But, I mean, what a season he put together. One of the standout ones for James Bickford, and he's won a couple of Monday night racing events before in history, so we're on to see a lot of good stuff out of driver number 29. Here is a former winner in Indianapolis, and one of the drivers we'll be watching for all season long, the driver of the number 17 out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey, the Magic Man, Adam Cabot, as he comes out for his outlap here in Indianapolis. And for Adam, it was an interesting story at Homestead of Miami Speedway when we closed out Season 6 of this very series, and he said, quote, at the end, "I think everyone who watched that race knows who deserved to be the champion," and Cabot is looking for full-on redemption here in 2023's edition of this series. And for Cabot, one of the stronger drivers at this set of racing, of course, saving his tires, making sure he can get to the end of the race, and he's a former winner here at the Brickyard. So if there's anything to note about Adam Cabot, is that he knows a thing or two about getting to victory lane, and he'll put in this first lap. So for Cabot, on the timing screen, it says he's on lap number 4, but this officially should be his first lap, and it's part of a rather interesting stat here from races held at Speedway Indiana's 2.5-mile rectangle oval. Because the previous 2 winners, Cabot and Presley Sora, the young driver from Indiana we saw put in qualifying times a little bit ago, led a combined total of 14 laps. So it's just outstanding to see how lap times or laps led really doesn't affect anything. But this first lap here for Cabot, 38.086. I was about to say 36, but that's 86 there on the timing sheet. So that's a 236.307 mile-an-hour lap. And for Cabot, as cool, as calm as he is, going to take it through turns 3 and 4. Excuse me there. And he'll take it for his second lap, and we'll see how it comes about when he gets to the yard of bricks. For sure, he's probably going to be looking for a better time this time through and just getting his head in the game. 38.023, exactly that, a little bit faster this time by. We'll see how he does on lap number 3. Let's bring in Brett Baldeck, who was an earlier qualifier, much like Brandon Houff. And Brett, you were one of the first drivers out there, so in a way, you and the group of guys around you were setting the tone for this qualifying session. Tell us what you made up out of the lap and how you feel watching the other drivers put in laps tonight.
Well, as you can see, if you look at the pylon, I am the slowest. I've never raced these cars before, and I practiced a little bit yesterday, and you would think with the speeds we're going, 245 entering the corner, that there'd be a possibility you would be loose, but these cars are glued to the track. You have to hold a pretty wheel. You have to have the 2 left side tires below that white line in order to go fast, and I was not able, for whatever reason, I just can't turn down in the corner. I just felt too tight. I don't know what the other guys are able to do. I'm probably not going to redo my lap. I would rather start in the back. It's either start in the back or start in the front. I do not want to start this race in the middle. But yeah, you would, like I said, the cars are ridiculously fast, but they're just stuck in the corner. So it should be a good race next Monday, but I definitely need to do a little bit more practice this week.
It's been crazy watching these drivers take the IR01's around this track, and you talked about the fastness and just the overall pace of these cars and how quick they are. And I mean, I immediately glanced at how quick these cars are over the course of the run as Adam Cabot clocks in at P5, his average at around 236.571. But Brett, I mentioned it to Brandon, and I'm sure I'm going to mention it to you now. How different are these cars to drive compared to anything you've raced here Monday Night Racing? I know you've been around this series for a while. You've had a chance to race so many different car and track combos, but how different is this one compared to the others you've experienced in this series?
Yeah, these by far are the quickest cars, fastest cars we've ever run. It's cool that they're not loose. I mean, you can hold it full throttle, at least in qualifying. Next week during the race, I know the aero will come into play and things like that, but I'm glad we're trying something new to start off the season. I love Indianapolis. It's such a historic track, both in real life and, of course, on iRacing. But no, these cars are just so quick, and it just boggled my mind how entering the corner as fast as we were when I practiced yesterday, I was letting off the gas thinking I was going to have to let off to prevent myself from spinning or hitting the wall, but you have to hold it flat out, at least in qualifying. And I wasn't even able to do that tonight. I still blipped the throttle just a little bit because it's just so hard, at least for me, to turn down into that corner and get my tires below that white line.
Well, it was a lot of fun watching you out on track, and I'm sure that you, alongside everyone, and including myself, very excited to get MNR started for next season. I mean, this combo is going to be absolutely insane. Really fast cars at a really fast track, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Brett, we certainly appreciate the time, as always, and best of luck as you get into Season 7 of the MNR Pro Series. Best of luck.
Thank you, and thank you to Podium, Gary, Ryan, you. I know you guys work really hard putting this broadcast on. I actually have it out on my big screen TV in the living room, so after this, I'm going to go watch again, watch on my couch, and then probably go to bed. But thank you guys for all your hard work.
That's Brett Baldeck, driver of the 4. As always, great to talk to him. And here's the driver of the 71 out on track, and you may recognize that face. If you've watched the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, you'll recognize him on eNASCAR Countdown to Green as well as on the main broadcast. But if you've been watching Podium Esports for a little while, you know that he was the play-by-play voice of Monday Night Racing for a very long time. Him, Jacob Hitz, and myself were part of the 3-man broadcast team for a while, and McCandless is now trading in the headset for the steering wheel here with these IR01's, his first lap at a 38.024. And it feels a little weird, I'm going to be honest, calling Blake McCandless out of the racetrack when I'm so used to him being in the broadcast booth with me so often in this series. But across the line, second time around, 38.044. So that's second lap with a 236.568 mile an hour lap speed. And so for McCandless, we saw him warming up the tires in the back straightaway, something that we've seen others do so far tonight, but not to the extent that he was on the backstretch. So we'll see if the extra grip or maybe the extra heat on the tires will do anything here for McCandless. So wrap around turns 3 and 4 through the short chute, and third lap for McCandless comes in 37.985. That's a blistering time for McCandless. What a time that was. And you're right on board, all the pinpoint accuracy you have to have. And one of the things that I've harped on about racing these IR01's, whether it be from this third perspective or even driving it in sim, or just putting on practice laps, is the mental acuity you have to have. You got to be so quick behind the wheel. Every little input matters so much compared to a lot of other cars on this sim. And when you're all by yourself on a track this large, it is going to matter way more. Can McCandless top that time? You betcha. 37.977 for McCandless. An overall average of 236.795. That'll put the 71 to second behind Corey Heim. What a lap average for the 71 of McCandless. And And so it's going to be hard for anyone to top that board. Colin Fern is in the outside wall on his out lap. Oh man, driver of the 96 is going to smack the inside wall, and we'll keep an update as to whether he will be able to redo his lap, and that was coming out of turn 2. And according to the admins, he will be allowed to rerun, but for Fern, I guess an opening segment there, right into the outside wall, and immediately hopped on the radio. And we'll see if Fern is going to be able to officially redo that lap, or if they're going to go to the next driver, who should be Brandon Brown in the 12. He is stopped right before the exit of pit road, so he will be able to get his laps in as soon as they let him. And it looks like Fern is actually disconnected from the session, so never mind that. It looks like he might just ditch qualifying overall. And before he can even complete one lap here at Indianapolis, Fern is out of it. So next driver, it appears, will be Brandon Brown in the 12, but he's just going to get the go-ahead from the admins. And there they go. So they're going to give Brandon the blessing to get out. He goes, zee on the radio. And there he goes. Spinning the tires, and he's out for his first set of laps. And so that's rather interesting there for Colin Fern, I guess. For one of the louder personalities in the MNR stable. We had him for coverage of the Monday Night Racing Summer Series at Daytona earlier this season. And man, I mean, a lot of fun to talk with in the broadcast booth. Definitely not afraid to speak his mind, and one of the bolder drivers in this series, but it's come with a lot of success. Colin Fern has won many races. He's found himself into the championship four more often than not in his MNR career. But it appears this time by won't exactly be able to put in a qualifying time for next week's opener, the driver from Norwich, New York, and the owner of FRS Racing in the Xfinity Series. So Brandon Brown here for his first lap in Indy. And we'll try and see if we can get another driver here in the broadcast booth, and we'll see if we can dial up the Tulsa, Oklahoma native of Mario Miranda, who has yet to officially put in his time. He is rather late on the actual order here, and we'll bring in Mario. So we've talked to a couple of drivers, Mario, that have already run laps, but we haven't got the perspective of a driver who hasn't run laps and is watching others put it in right now. So what are the thoughts going through your head right now as you get set for your first ever Monday Night Racing Pro Series full-time season laps?
I'm nervous as heck right now. I'm not gonna lie. I saw the list get posted yesterday, and I just kept going down the list. Didn't see my name till the very end. But I kind of like going last. You kind of see where everyone's at. You know, you can only go up. So that's the mentality I have. I can only go up. I can't do worse. So I like it. I mean, I see Corey Heim's time at the top and a couple others, and those are gonna be hard to beat. I haven't gotten that close in practice, but I feel fairly confident I can do it. But yeah, just right now, just all the nerves, you know, start of the rookie season. I just want to impress a lot of people tonight.
We'll talk about that rookie season and the implications of that moving forward, but let's talk the nerves just a little bit more. Do you think that you being at the bottom of the list here is helping those nerves, or is it kind of amplifying it with the laps that you've seen some of these guys put in so far?
It's kind of helping it, you know, when the session first goes up, you know, nerves spike, and, you know, the first guy goes out, does his lap. So the nerves are really nervous, or pretty high at the beginning of the session. And as it goes on, I kind of calm down. I'm seeing the times. I think, you know, I get more confident in what I can do, like what my ability is for this session. And even the confidence kind of starts to go up. And I feel pretty good towards the end of a run. So, you know, in the summer series, it was reverse order of practice, or of practice times, and I was usually near the end. I kind of like that. I got used to that feeling.
So you come in with your first ever Monday Night Racing Pro Series season on the line as you kick off next week with these IR01's at the same track, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I saw that you posted on September 29th, a couple of days ago on Twitter, a little edit of your win at Auto Club Speedway. That one, I'm sure, meant a lot to you to finally break free of all the troubles that you found along your Summer Series career. And you said, Monday Night Racing has a new regular. Just give us your perspective of getting into that first full-time season and your excitement for it overall.
Oh, it's super exciting, especially, you know, with this being the first race with this car. I kind of like open wheel oval racing. I would never do it in real life because I don't think I have the dog in me to do that. But Yeah, I like doing it. It's gonna be fun, but that win I had in the summer series with the Jet 4s at Auto Club was such a big boost because I know it can be really hard to win this league, and I know there's probably a few or a handful of drivers who are more talented than I am, still haven't won yet. So I have a huge privilege to have won, and that even helps me just more for the future races to come.
And I'm sure that you've taken a look at the Season 7 schedule, and you've probably outlined some of the car track combos that might be ones in your wheelhouse. Are there any that catch your eye for Season 7, or any that we might have to watch out for Mario Miranda for those weeks?
GT4s at Long Beach, really like that track. I've never had that combo before, but I think if you know a track well enough, you can pretty much race anything on it. And same thing with the stadium trucks at Watkins Glen. So yeah, those 2 road course events I'm really looking forward to.
It'll be a lot of fun seeing you as a rookie in this Monday Night Racing Pro Series season number 7. Mario, of course, we certainly appreciate the time. We're so excited to have you a part of this series as a rookie driver, and best of luck in your qualifying time later tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So that's Mario Miranda, driver of the number 89, going for his first full-time season in MNR competition. And Mark Rabilis, we just saw him get into the outside wall entering turns 3 and 4. That was supposed to be his out lap, or supposed to be his first completed lap here at Indy. Unfortunately, that was all for naught, and so Rabilis will forfeit his time. He will get the opportunity to redo, much like Colin Fern will, and so the next driver in line is Bailey Turner, standout driver we've seen so many times throughout, from his rookie season to the summer series to maybe even now coming in as a favorite to grab his first career MNR victory. And as he comes in for his out lap, we'll keep track of his laps as they go. You'll see him on the bottom left side of your screen. Let's bring in Colin Fern. And Colin, I don't think I really need to ask a convoluted question. Just talk us through what happened there on the out lap.
Well, it wasn't the out lap. I took the green, and kind of like FRS all year, I haven't been able to see the checkered. So went down into 1 and hit the apron, and I wasn't gonna, be a, and lift. So I just stayed in the throttle, and the wall was in my way.
So Admin said you do have the opportunity to redo that lap. Are we expecting to see you come back in and put a 4-lap average to set your starting position for next week's race?
Oh, absolutely not. I told my buddy John, John Booger, who spots for me every week on Monday Night Racing, that he needs to earn his $0 a week paycheck. And so I figure if I start in the back, we'll pass more cars and make him earn it, All
right, well, there's a lot of work you got to do on that opening race as you watch drivers continue to put laps. Colin, we certainly appreciate the time, and best of luck at next week's season opener.
Kind of start trash talking these boys when they go out. Don't be so professional all the time. Just start trash talking them.
I mean, what would you want me to say, though? Like,
who's on track? Who's on track right now?
This is Bailey Turner, driver 5.
Tell Bailey that Brock Purdy sucks. Talk about how he's a 49ers fan. And when they get hurt.
I mean, they're undefeated, though. They're undefeated.
So aren't the Eagles.
Turner almost got the outside wall there, turn 1.
Yeah. Him and I are a lot alike in the sense that we both suck at driving race cars on the video game, but we're different in the sense that my football team's better than his football team. So go Birds.
All right, well, Colin, we appreciate the time. Best of luck next week on Monday night. So that's Colin Fern, driver of the 86, so I guess, or 96 rather. It looks like we won't be able to see him put in a 4-lap average after all. He wants to go do a back-to-front challenge next week at Indianapolis. 236.227 here for driver number 5 of Bailey Turner. His 3rd lap at a 38.077. We'll bring in another driver who already comes off of completing his 4-lap average, and this is the Season 5 MNR champion, Presley Soar. First of all, Presley, welcome back to the broadcast. But it's been a while since we've spoken, but nice to talk to you once again. Just give us your perspective on the 4-lap average here at Indy, how you felt about it.
Yeah, I really didn't like my run, so literally as soon as I finished and head off into turn 1 after my 4th lap, I immediately pulled my time. So after the lineup completes, I should be right back out there, because I think Corey's time is going to be a little tough to beat and Blake's is going to be tough to beat, but I think I can at least get 3rd out of it. But if I run what I did in practice, I might be able to get the pole, and if I pick up any, I think I can. So I just gotta keep it clean. I lost a ton of time in turn 3 on my run, so turn 3 and lap 3. So if I can clean up all 4, really the first, second, and fourth laps were pretty good, but the third lap is pretty messy. So if I can just have a pretty consistent run on all 4, then I think I might have a chance at the pole, but if not, I think I can start at least probably top 2 or 3.
We got to talk about these IR01's at Indianapolis. I mean, I know you have experience winning at this track in Monday Night Racing. Maybe saw it back in Season 6 with the redacted car that we can't necessarily name on the air. But with this IR01, how much different is it compared to some of the other open-wheel Indianapolis experience you've had prior in the sim?
Yeah, so it's way different than the Indy car. They kind of look similar, but you know, a lot of the other drivers have talked about it. It's way, way faster. We're going like 20 mile an hour quicker in the draft, which is just unbelievable. But they have less dirty air, so I think, and I haven't really played around with them too much in the draft, but I think next week we're probably going to see more of a pack race, which is, that probably doesn't really play into my driving style necessarily. I kind of like the Indy car because I'm good with messing with the air with the guys behind me, but you know, I think I can make do. But I think next week will be a race of attrition. I think the guys that can survive to the end are going to be the ones that are going to be racing for the win, and I think you'll see a lot of fast guys get taken out early, and as long as you survive that mess, I think you got a shot at it. But they're really weird. They're kind of twitchy in the corner. I've heard a lot of guys talk about how you have to hold a pretty line, and that's true, but it seems like even when you do hold a pretty line, they kind of just do what they want in the middle of the corner, which makes it tough. I felt like I did a pretty good job getting into the corner on each of my laps, but it would just kind of, in the center of the corner, it would get down and kind of dart towards the grass. Once it does that, you got to kind of put a little wheel into it to get it back out of that, and then it starts pushing towards the wall. So it kind of has a mind of its own, and the fastest guys are the ones that obviously have it figured out, that keep it from washing out from under itself. So I think I can hopefully do that on my next run, and if not, then I guess we'll see where I end up.
Let's translate this to the entirety of Season 7. Of course, you were a champion in Season 5. You graduated from the Road to Glory camp a couple of years ago, found yourself with a title in hand, and tried to defend it in Season 6. You unfortunately couldn't do it. What's your motto going into Season 7? What should we expect out of Presley Sora for this edition of the Pro Series?
My motto for this season is don't lift, and when guys mess with me, I'm going to mess with them back. So I think last season I had a pretty good shot at the championship, and a few circumstances, we'll call it, took me out of it. So I'm going to do my best to not let that happen this go around, but if it does, then I'll bite right back.
Well, we're looking forward to watching you on track all season long, Presley. As always, we wish you the best of luck into next week's season opener and your redo lap average here from Indianapolis. But until then, we appreciate the time and thank you for joining us.
Alrighty, thank you. I should be back out in just a couple minutes.
So as we wrap up the last couple of drivers in qualifying, we are set to see some of the redo runners come back out on track. This is league owner Ford Martin with a 38.106 his first lap. Not bad for the Mach 10 Digital IR01, 236.183 miles an hour. And so really good stuff for Ford Martin here on this first lap at Indianapolis. We saw Max Kennan put in a 4-lap average of 235.741. So that so far puts him a bit outside of the top 10. It looks like that actually does put him 21st on the grid. So actually way outside the top 10 there for a driver number 21, sporting the 499 Racing colors, which is a team in the Grand Prix Turn Racing iRacing series. They have Charles Sears behind the wheel, the driver from Virginia, out there on the pro side of things. And this is a really fast lap for Martin, 37.994. One of the fastest we've seen over the last couple of drivers, and the first driver to break the 37-second bracket since McCandless. And so this would be lap number 3 for Martin. That second one came in at 236.880. This third lap, not faster, but it's a 38.101, 236.214 miles an hour, and almost got the outside wall there in turns 1 and 2. And that short shoot, it's been a little tough for some drivers, but he's been all over the wheel tonight over these 4 laps. I mean, you can imagine how tense it is behind the wheel. And yes, these cars have so much downforce, and you can easily go full throttle around this track. But when you're trying to pinpoint this car at 100% and at its very edge, it can get really tough to drive. And so for Martin, final lap, checkered flag for the 07. It is a 38.017. And that'll be a 4-lap average of 236.503. So that will put the league owner inside the top 10. That's P8. So a good run there for Martin. Looks like we'll have Matt Stolnick next on the list. We were supposed to have Carson Hocevar make some laps, but the driver of the 41, he'll be out on the racetrack. There he is, going through 1 and 2 on his out lap. Let's bring in Josh Slate, driver of the 01. He's, again, the band of drivers that have already put in laps and is sort of looking at their 4-lap average as they watch the rest of the qualifiers get away. First of all, Josh, welcome to the broadcast booth here at Podium Esports. You've been watching some of these laps. What have you been making it up so far, and how do you feel it compares to the laps that you put on in your 4-lap average?
Well, watching everybody, it looks like they're going a lot faster than what I did. I think I'm like 16th now, so trying to see what they're doing. I struggled getting to the bottom, so I'm just need to find a way to get to the bottom. So, but it feels like it's going to step out on corner exit of 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just so unsteady. So trying to find out what these guys are doing so I can try to make another run here soon.
Is that just a product of how this car is? I mean, it's the first time that Monday Night Racing ever drives this Dallara IR01, really in any capacity, road course or oval. So it's just a product of everybody getting acclimated, including yourself, to this new high horsepower, high downforce car?
I think so. It's the first time I've driven it and driven it competitively. So I've done practice, but nothing's kind of like, you can practice qualifying laps, but nothing is like actually trying to do it in qualifying pole. Like, it's going to be a track position race. Me and Colin Fern were talking about it. The middle of the pack might be a little sketchy here, especially with the closing rates. In practice, we're hitting like 255 at the end of the straights, but pretty even through the corners, so you're catching them right at the end of the straights. And I feel like you want to be in the lead or you want to be in the back, and a bunch of scary ground in the middle, so it's kind of putting yourself where you want to and trying to stay safe.
Kind of like being in the danger zone at all times. I mean, I've driven this car in sim, and it's just absolutely treacherous. And no matter what you do, whether it's a road course or an oval, it's very difficult to drive at 100%. But we'll talk the overarching storyline. Season 7 coming back after a little while of absence. I know we had the summer series a couple of months ago, but it's a full-time season competition. How excited are you to kick off Season 7 of the MNR Pro Series?
I'm pumped. It's when you are in it every single week, you kind of take it for granted, and going without racing for a while, you just kind of miss it. I miss racing competitively. Yeah, you can run fixed races and official races, but running a league, especially with some of your good friends, is just so much fun, and it'll be fun to get back and try to race for the big money at the end of it. I've struggled with points racing in the past. I feel like with this season, with the summer seasons, kind of prepared me a lot. And so I'm looking forward to try to race smart this year. We're not chasing wins, we're just chasing good finishes to get into the playoffs. And the playoff format this year is really interesting. It's unique. Nobody has done anything like this, so it'll be fun. I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. And I think a bunch of tracks that we go to with the car combos or something that I'm not super familiar with. I feel very comfortable in the trucks, very comfortable in road courses, but this Dallara IR01 is going to be a handful, and the Gen 4 car is a handful as well.
Well, we are excited, Josh, to have you part of MNR for another great season, and we're so excited to watch you out on track as we get this season rolling. We certainly appreciate the time. Best of luck as we get into the season opener next week, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for having me.
So that's Josh Slate, driver of the number 01. He put his time a little bit earlier on tonight. And so, of course, he's been watching all of the other guys out on track. Current pole sitter is defending champion Corey Heim. No one has been able to top him so far. And as we take a little bit of break in the action, we'll have more drivers out on track in just a moment here from Indianapolis.
Mach 10. Let's give Mach 10.
You're cleared for takeoff. Request permission to engage with intent, conduct a smash, over.
Welcome back to the Brickyard, continuing coverage of the qualifying night for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series opener here at Indianapolis. And with our coverage on Podium Esports, so happy to have you along for the ride. Kenneth Bueno in the broadcast booth, and currently the top spot belongs to the defending champion Corey Heim, the three-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series winner, remains at the top of the board. His average remains at around 236.823 miles an hour. The only driver to get remotely close has been Blake McCandless, but no one else yet to break that threshold. We've got next driver up on the line and some of the final drivers that will make their way around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway before we get some of the redo times for those who wanted to go out and go for a 4-lap average again. This is the driver of the number 46, Stephen Ellis. We've seen him around MNR for quite a while. Driver from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And so he'll get in for his first lap. And over the course of the evening, we've seen many of our interviewees talking about the difficulties of driving this car and how one little mistake can set off the lap entirely and make you have to go for a redo like some are. And for others, it looks like they're just working with what they have. They're lying in their bed when they make it. And so they're going to have to deal with the ramifications of that coming for the season opener next Monday on October 9th. So Ellis will come out of turn number 4. This will be his first completed lap. We've seen only a handful of guys tonight break that 37-second bracket, the most recent being league owner Ford Martin. And this lap rather close to that 38.045 for Ellis, lap number 1. You just hear that V10 screaming through the back straightaway. It's one of the marquee features of this Dallara IR01 ever since it was brought into iRacing as a fictional car, but collaborated like if it was a real one with the Dallara group. And they put in this huge engine in it, 900 horsepower, hence why you're seeing speeds of over 245 miles an hour across the bricks. Second time around, this one faster by 1/100th of a second, 38.035 for Ellis. On lap 2, that one 236.624 miles an hour. So next up on the list is Mario Miranda, the Tulsa, Oklahoma native. We should have Gary Sexton a little bit later on, as well as Ronnie Osmer. That will complete the entire list. And then goes the drivers willing to redo. So Presley Sora, we talked to him a little bit earlier on tonight. It appears he's going to be one of those drivers to put in a redo time. But we should have some others in there as well. And this one a little bit faster by a tad bit, 38.033 for Ellis. So a slow uphill climb for Ellis on the lap time. That one at 236.637 miles an hour. His average sitting at 236.608. And so a really good outing for Ellis. That puts him 4th right now on the board, but it all hinges on this last lap, and it could really be do or die as he gets a little wide out of turn 3. And to make sure he didn't get into that outside wall, turn 4, closer line, but a little slower. He's going to get to around 243 miles an hour at the line. This one slower, 238.096. And that's his average bumped down to a 236.517. But that is good enough for a top 10 spot. So next up, as Ellis clocks in at P8, is Mario Miranda. We talked about the Tulsa, Oklahoma native who did talk to me recently on Discord and mentioned how he moved basically right across the street from the Tulsa Expo Center, the host of the Chili Bowl every single year. And so Miranda, you see the camera we've got on the bottom right of the screen, so you get a good look at his perspective on the outlap exiting turn number 4. And Miranda, we've seen him so many times on Podium Esports through the Sunoco Cup Series, where he's been able to visit the championship for multiple times, has found himself as somewhat of a villain in that series. But here in MNR, he's just a rookie with a very fast mentality, and it's a 38.110 for Miranda on lap number 1. And Miranda, a part of the Sooner Esports camp, attends the University of Oklahoma and actually represented his school and his esports program in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. And looks like frustrations there for Miranda coming out of this corner. And this is only lap 2 for him, 38.062. So he feels that his laps could be way better than they are right now. His average sitting at 236.307 right now. That does put him inside the top 15. But he is looking for a desperate improvement this time by 243 miles an hour, entering turn 3 for lap 3. So flirting with that outside wall is Miranda. We've seen many guys do that tonight, and this lap actually didn't really clock in, at least from my perspective there. It appears that was actually invalidated by iRacing, it appears. Might have struck the outside wall, so no official lap time given on the third one. And so he'll have to redeem himself on lap number 4. And this is not looking that good for driver 89, who was able to pick up his first MNR career victory in the Summer Series at Auto Club with the Gen 4s after finding himself in trouble that really wasn't any fault of his own in the first 2 or so races. And it looks like he gets really close to the safer barrier exiting turn 4. We'll see how this lap comes in. It appears it's going to be in that 38-second bracket. It is 38.015. And for Miranda, we'll try and keep an eye on whether lap 3's data comes in. But for the 89, not the laps he was looking for, as the next driver comes out. That is the 55 of Ronnie Osmer into turn 1. Osmer, the mechanic for Our Motorsports and the driver from Pearl River, Louisiana, definitely has been making a name of his own here in this series. And in the Summer Series, performed a lot of great, the Super Speedway Tour, and of course the Gen 4 Series itself. And so you've got the orange and black colors on this number 55 IR01, and I think off of our producer Ryan Bauer, I had to take a second look at that, and he's right. Dumpkin Spice Dude Wipes, the Halloween-themed Dude Wipes sponsor here for Osmer. I guess fitting since we're already in October. And there it is. There's a closer look at it. So Osmer never fails to disappoint, rather, with the Dude Wipes colors on his car, and I guess it's going to be the black and orange. It looks rather good on the racetrack, and it appears with the lack of paint schemes we have on the field with this car, Osmer definitely did take his sweet time putting this one together, and it does look very good. 38.040 his opening lap. We'll go for his second as he crosses the stripe. 38.088 here for Osmer, so a little bit slower there. Lap time at 236.295 miles an hour. And you see most of the drivers at the low end of 7th gear. This car can go up to these higher gears and revs really high, 19,000, 20,000 RPM. But you don't really get that high when you're in the corners and you start to scrub off some speed. And he's averaging at around 235 miles an hour through the corners. Exit out of turn number 4 for Osmer. And this time by yard of bricks, he gets there, 37.981. So first driver to break the 37-second bracket since Ford Martin a little bit earlier on tonight. Great lap, 236.961. That was really fast. So final lap here for Osmer. And at turn 3, scrubbed a bit of the grass. And a cleaner exit out of 4. And to the yard of bricks, checkered flag in the air for Osmer. And the 55 clocks in at a 38.054 average of 236.588 miles an hour. So next up, before we get the redo, should be Podium Esports' own Gary Sexton, but so far has not been able to make it out on the racetrack, so we might have to wait just a little bit. And as we watch Ronnie Osmer's official time, that is going to put him 5th. So really good outing for Osmer there, especially on that 3rd lap of 37.981. Very quick for the 55, who's performed well at these full throttle, high-speed tracks. And so for Osmer, he'll have a pretty good seat for next week's season opener here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Out goes the one of Gary Sexton. He'll get past the line of cars, and it appears he will not go yet. He will stay behind the line of Miranda Stolnick and Mark Rebillis, who appears they want to do a redo of their laps. And so we'll get official confirmation, but it appears on the line for now is Mark Rebillis in the 99. We saw him not put in a time as they went through the list. So they'll give these drivers an opportunity to reset here. So we'll just keep an eye on exactly what everyone is going to do here. It looks like Brandon Brown is out on the racetrack. So he's putting in laps. Remember, he did put in a 4-lap average earlier on this evening. And it was actually right after Colin Fern's botched lap that he hit the outside wall with. So Brandon Brown, it appears, he's going for his redo laps. And they already let him go. So they got the line of cars waiting at the exit of pit road. And so for Brandon Brown, his redo time is going to be hopefully a good one for him. That's a little bit of a scrub out of turn number 4, getting close to that outside wall. And for the 12 of Brown, cross at the stripe, lap number 1, 38.144. So not the fastest out of the 4 he put up earlier on this evening. Well, that's the magic of redoing your laps. Either you get a little bit slower over time, or you find a way to get some magic in your belt and be able to put in a faster time, get a better start for next week's season opener. Second lap, 38.026. And that's a fast one there for Brown, but he hits the outside wall in turn 1. Big mistake for the 12. And will that be an aborted 4-lap average? That was the fastest he went over those 2 laps. And it looks like he will tow it to pit road. So that lap either will not officially count, or Brown will have an opportunity to redo it again. And this is interesting stuff. Matt Stolnick is up next, it appears, on the line. And there's Brandon Brown, as he will officially get behind the line of cars, so he will redo his effort again. And on the track is Mark Rebillis, driver 99. Had the opportunity to meet him at Daytona International Speedway earlier this year for the 500. And the Arizona native, very nice man, very fun to talk to with the group that we had, a little MNR group with Seth Eggert, Devin Henry, and a couple of other former drivers in this series, as Rebillis gets way high in turn 1 and almost got a bit of the outside wall. Now, Rebillis was set to go after Brandon Brown, but did not make his official scheduled time. So hence why we're seeing these laps pouring out of him now. And you see on the bottom left of your screen, it says 100 seconds. Those are the inputs we're putting for drivers who have not put in a time yet, but that should obviously update as we move forward and as the 99 crosses the start-finish line. But boy, that was a rough outing in 3 and 4. Got a bit of the grass, car wiggled all over the place, chased up the banking. But this lap, regardless, 39 38.501 on lap 1. So Rubilis comes out of turn 4. This will be his second lap, and he's looking for a massive improvement. Haven't really seen many drivers in that 39-second bracket. It was that hiccup out of turn 4. This one way better, 38.619 for Rubilis. On lap number 2, just has to be really careful around that outside wall. It can be very easy to get too close to that curbing on the inside and get a piece of the grass or just get that car unsettled. And we talked about it with Josh Slade and a couple of others. They mentioned how jittery this car is when you put it in a certain direction and how unstable it could get at full song. So for Rubilis, it looks like he's learned his lesson from that first lap. Cleaner third lap. And to the start-finish line, Yada Bricks, lap number 3. This one, 38.438. So not bad. Still a steady improvement as he heads for lap 4. So we should have Matt Stolnick and company next on the board. That 41 has already come out of the racetrack, so it looks like he's going to be setting a time. Although it appears on his outlap, just hit the outside wall. But here for the 99 of Rubilis. Final lap here at Indianapolis. And that's faster than the others, 38.232, and goes for a huge hit on the outside wall. Well, I guess that's a way to do it. And then Stolnick up next is actually, he won't be able to hit there on Rubilis. So I guess thank goodness that he didn't get there in time. And so Mark Rubilis puts in his 4 laps. Matt Stolnick for his first. And this is officially his redo. His first lap was a 38.238 on his opening run. But this is now his official lap number 1 on the redo for the driver out of Syracuse, New York. And there's Mark Rubilis, who puts in a time at 27th, and that 39-second bracket on the first lap surely didn't help him at all. And for Stolnick, he comes out of turn number 4. We'll keep an eye on his tally for lap number 1 on the redo. He has 2 career Monday night racing wins. 2 of them were at super speedways. One of them at Daytona, the other one at Talladega. One of them with the Xfinity Series cars, the other with the trucks. And so for Stolnick, I'm sure that a win here at Indianapolis would mean big-time things for driver 41. It would be his first win in a while. And so Stolnick still yet with an official first lap, but just been getting ready, just getting that IR01 wound up here. He'll get out of turn 4, and this should be lap number 1 completed for the 41 of Stolnick. There we go, 38.178. Took a little while to get on the board, but there he is. So Stolnick with an already better lap time than his first one on the opening run for him. So it looks like a rather good improvement here for Stolnick, and we should have some others left to go with him. Looks like Corey Deucer, Gary Sexton on those on pit road. Mario Miranda set to take in a second qualifying effort. So is Monin Rahman, so is Presley Sora, and so is Brandon Houff in the 9, the driver we talked to a little bit earlier on in our show. So here comes Stolnick as he crosses the stripe. 38.079. Man, he's picked up a lot of speed. So there we go. I guess that's the good of doing a redo here in this qualifying format, is that, you know, you learn a couple things from the drivers you watch out on track. You take some of those notes. Maybe you practice differently. And in some cases, you can improve wildly on your laps. And that's exactly what Stolnick is doing right now. 245 entering turn 3. And you can tell, cleaner lines here for Stolnick. Easily getting him that lap time. It's been the key for guys like McCandless, for guys like Corey Heim. Easily why they've been able to put times at the top of the board, because they've been so smooth behind the wheel. This one is faster than the last for Stolnick. 38.036. A little there, close in turn 1. Almost hit the outside wall. So entering turns 3 and 4 for this lap. He's been getting faster progressively, lap by lap, as the fuel has burned off. And for Stolnek, his final qualifying effort comes in. His last time, 38.099. So for Stolnek, an overall lap average of 236.233. And that puts him inside the top 20, 16th at the moment. So 16th it is for the 41 of Stolnek. And as we look back out on the racetrack, next driver out is one that we're very familiar with, the car number 1, Gary Sexton, the driver from Podium Esports. I mean, one of the owners, one of my bosses at Podium Esports. Gary, though, has been a longtime member of Monday Night Racing. We've seen a lot of great stuff out of him. And look at him working that wheel in turns 3 and 4. This is only his outlap, so you can imagine how hard he's going to have to work when he gets that green flag, which should be in a couple of moments. And Sexton out for his 4-lap average. So clean through 1 and 2. This is a beautiful shot off the top of this IR01. You can easily tell, number 1, how hard he's having to work behind the wheel on the bottom right and on the bottom center of the screen, but also just the perspective of going this fast at this track. And a little high off of the exit in turn 4 rather, here in his first official lap. This one clocks in 38.130 for Sexton. And Sexton still chasing a first career Monday Night Racing win. Has been really close to getting that multiple times, especially through the summer series. One of the better super speedway drivers as he comes around. 38.060 for Sexton. And he hasn't been able to find victory lane quite yet. But could season 7 be the turnaround for the former Pennsylvania native? Trying to make sure he avoids that outside wall at all costs. And we've seen different lines from everybody tonight, whether they're a little closer to that wall and their car is just understeery, whether they are really tight to the bottom end of the racetrack. 38.070 for Sexton this time by, but whether they want to get really close to that curbing or whether they want to stay as far away from it as possible while not hitting that outside wall, it's been rather interesting to see how different these lines have become and as they've grown, and as of course the track has developed. We haven't seen any changes in terms of the weather. Track temp is still at a blazing 121 degrees. It's a static 3:35 afternoon in sim with the sun not moving at all on May 15th, 2023. And so for Sexton, this is lap number 4, his final lap here from Indy. We'll see if he goes for a redo, but his last lap clocks in at 38.125. So the slowest, or one of the slowest laps we've seen out of Sexton over his 4-lap average. That goes at 236.244 miles an hour. So we'll have the next drivers out on track, and the next one will be the 9 of Brandon Houff. We talked to him a little bit earlier on tonight, and it appears he wanted to redo his laps after watching everybody out on track. So the Grit Esports number 9 is back in for the action, and we'll see if he can improve on his first outing. And for Houff, he talked about the nerves of getting out on track, especially one of the first drivers to do it and setting the tone. This lap, 38.104. and not faster than his official first time. Well, it was the second lap in his first effort, 38.007. And for Half, I mean, he was talking about the way he was handling that Dallara IR01, the minor things that he wanted to improve on this second run, and it appears he's using it to the test. It's slowly but surely working out for him as he comes out of turn number 4. This would be lap number 2 for Half. And so across to the line, 37.989, fastest we've seen out of Half all night long. What a lap, 236.911 miles an hour. And that's a monstrous lap for Half, who immediately redeems his fastest lap of his segment here at Indianapolis. He'll come across for lap number 3. And for the bright yellow IR01 that you possibly can't miss anywhere, he'll cross the line. And this will clock in 38.010, so not that far off. And they'll let the next driver go. We'll keep an eye on exactly who that is. It appears to be Presley Sora in the 98, so one of the former qualifiers coming back out for action. And for Half here, was put his car as high as 4th. We'll try and set the tone on this final lap. Already a good starting spot for next week's season opener. Can he improve on this one? Final look, checkered flag in the air for Half, 37.954. That's a heater. That puts him almost at top of the board. That's P3 for Brandon Half. That's a great lap though for Half. That's his fastest that he's put in all night long, and I'm sure the average will be at around 236.753 miles an hour. He'll stay behind McCandless and Heim. And here's Presley Sora shaking his head already. And this is the out lap going for the first one. So here for Sora, first lap slower than the first last time by 38.265. And that's why you already saw that one. The shaking his head on the back straightaway. And not a good opening lap there for Sora. As he'll bring his carbon fiber IR01 down to turns 3 and 4. You see him there, different from guys like Half or Sexton. Not being afraid to get to that curb on the inside of the racetrack, but making sure he can sort of split that fine line between getting lap time and just trashing his car entirely. And second lap will come in 38.009. So a faster time here for Sora. And he gets really close to that outside wall in turn 1. So here, 245 miles an hour, entering turns 3 and 4. And for Sora, this will be his 3rd lap on his 2nd try. We've had a couple of other drivers come out onto the racetrack. It looks like Chase Cabry is also going at it. And many others are coming in for their redo. So this is going to get really dramatic. 37.965, big time lap there for Sora. It's what he really needed there off of the first 2. And so needs to cap it off with this final one, lap 4, and we'll get the next driver on track. So it appears to be Brandon Brown, who aborted his lap time with a hit to the outside wall earlier tonight. He will be next as the admins give him the go-ahead. But for the 98 of Presley Sora, the Indiana native in his hometown track, and not that far off the fastest lap, 37.967 for Sora, and an average of 236.522. And not a massive improvement there for Sora, and I'm sure he definitely would like to redo those first 2 laps, especially considering how quick he was on those last 2, on the back half of it. And then here's the next driver on the board. So Monin Raman in the 44 back in action for redo. And Raman put in a time that was good enough for 13th on the board, and he's looking to take this risk and enhance his lap time. But with that, as we see the 44 put in laps around the IMS Brickyard, looks like we'll bring in the second member of our broadcast team. How about Glendale, Arizona's Devin Henry? First of all, Devin, it's so good to talk to you once again, and to bring you up in the broadcast booth reminds me of old times. But you're one of the drivers in this series, and I'm sure that you've been watching this qualifying times being put in all night long. What have you gathered from the qualifying session here from Indy?
Well, first of all, Kenneth, glad to talk to you too, but obviously this track is so fast, especially when you have this version of a car, these open wheel cars around here, fantastic, and just the speed around here and having guys like Corey High in P1, you know that someone like that's going to come out here, put down some hot laps.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see guys like Corey Heim, and no matter what situation you put him in, it seems like he seems to find speed no matter what. But have there been any surprises that you've noted? And I know that Heim, I mean, maybe McCandless, top drivers in the sim, that they'd be at the top of the board, but are there any drivers that surprisingly that you've watched over the course of the night that maybe have caught your eye, if they've been at the top of the board or near the bottom?
Well, Stephen Ellis was a big one, but obviously Blake McCandless, announcer last season and now back on the track. He's maybe the one I'm most upset about personally, because I race a lot of the 87s occasionally in the official series, and it's bad enough getting beat by him almost every week in the official series. I don't need that to happen every Monday night too. I think it's the old cars, but boy, oh boy, less than a 10th under the pole time right now. I mean, just the way that Blake can take any car and seemingly do fantastic at it, find speed, and find his way to the front. This is someone who not just in an open wheel car, not just in the old style, well, I guess the Gen 4 cars too, where you're slipping and sliding. Blake is going to be someone to watch for the championship this year, and I'm sick of us adding great drivers that I know is only going to put me further back in the pack. I need guys to finish in front of, not guys like Blake.
Well, hey, Blake might get put down to third, because look at the laps being set by Monin Raman, a 37.895 on lap 3, and as he crosses for lap 4, he stays in the 37-lap bracket, and that's a 37.977. Monin Raman to the top of the board at Indianapolis.
So difficult. It doesn't matter if it's at the real world track or right here, being able to have consistent lap times regardless of if they're mid-tier or in particular at the top of the board. Boy, oh boy, it's just difficult to run that consistently 4 laps around this track at such an irate sense of speed.
And I don't think we've seen a lap put in faster than the 37.895 that Raman did on lap 3. We've seen drivers get 37.9s quite often tonight, but 37.8s so far is rather unheard of, as Brandon Brown, who aborted his last qualifying effort, will come in this time by and try and reset for 4 more laps. And Devin, we've seen some fair share of problems by some guys tonight, and I'm sure you've probably had some experience even just watching these guys with the IR01's here at Indy. How tough it really is to drive a car like this fast at full limit at one of America's greatest speedways.
Well, I think it was the last time that we raced here, Kenneth. I was starting, I think, 6th or 8th, basically 3rd or 4th row on the outside, and I was pumped. I had a great qualifying effort in the car, and we go into turn number 1. I feel great. We go into turn number 2, and I arrow push straight into the wall after maybe my best qualifying effort of any track this size in all Monday night racing, and just absolutely pummeled the thing. And it doesn't matter if it's in a race and you're going to have more issues in terms of aero in a race, but here in qualifying specifically, you watch Brandon Brown here in this iRacing car go and just barely tag the inside little part of the corner here. You get that tire down on that line. It is so difficult, no matter what car you are in here, to just put down a consistent lap like we saw Raman do, but then on top of that, to go out here and do that for 4 consecutive laps, pushing it to the edge. There you go. It's another slight tap there. If you touch the grass, there's a good chance you're going to lose the rear end of the car. So being able to hit your marks, not 2 times, not 4 times, not 8 times, but 16 times, it is outrageous in order to put down the perfect lap here at Indianapolis.
And you also mentioned the fact that, you know, having a tidy line is so important, and you run that risk versus reward, right? How close you want to get to that inside line without getting into that grass and scrubbing off speed. And we've seen guys throughout tonight's qualifying session either be really close to that curbing, as close as they can be. Some have struck the grass, and then others have been as far as maybe half a groove to a full groove off of that white line at the bottom of each corner. So it's been different philosophies at hand for Brandon Brown. A little high there off of turn 4. This is his final lap on the redo, and this is going to be a 38.384, so not something that Brandon Brown will really want to write home about, but he does put in 4 clean laps, and he is going to set in his time nonetheless. And we'll discuss this car ad nauseum over the actual race next Monday night, Devin. But I mean, these cars are so fast. They are so pinpoint accurate. They have so much downforce, and when you're going 253 miles into a corner, it feels so much different than anything else that you've probably driven before in the sim. It's such an interesting and unique challenge, and as we watch the Pro Series drivers do it on the road courses, we're watching the best of MNR do it on a big old oval like this. As here's Corey Deucer.
And you see going into turn number 3, 245 miles per hour going into turn number 3 and also into turn number 1, almost back up to 240 there into turn number 4. And so when you're having to drive that kind of speed into the corner, I feel like that there's no other race combination, the car, the track, any open wheel car here at Indianapolis, I feel like you feel the sensation of speed more than anywhere else on this service. You can feel that 246 miles per hour diving into turn number 1. And like we've been talking about, just the consistency of being able to do that time and time again. But you cannot understate how important it is, that part right there, where your hands go on corner entry. A centimeter, especially an inch, of a miss going on corner entry can ruin a lap. And so it comes down to not just having that speed, but being able to comprehend it into the corner and be able to find a way to hit that perfect mark within centimeters, millimeters every time you take a corner.
For Corey Deucer here, it looks like he's mastered it on his redo effort. 236.481 miles an hour on the opening lap, 236.736 miles an hour on lap number 2. So slowly but surely, Corey Deucer is getting faster, and one of the rookie drivers entering Season 7 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. And Devin, we've talked about it as well. I mean, guys like Mario Miranda, Joey Pageant, and a lot of other guys in this field. Monin Rahman, who just took the top of the board. Guys who are relatively new to this series in their first or second season. It's a 38.007 for Deucer on lap number 3. We've got a lot of great talent and new talent coming into this series, and while we've seen some veterans maybe take a step aside and not run this season of MNR competition, we're seeing a wave of new guys come in, and like Corey Deucer, we're very excited to see what they can do in that first race next Monday.
Whether it's Deucer, McCandless, Hoff, Rahman, all of them, they have such a high level of excellence in terms of how they drive. And so it's these guys that really help elevate the series as well, because it makes everybody else in the league have to get better as well. Another 247 miles per hour going to this corner as well here for Deucer. But yeah, just being able to compete with guys of this caliber of racing, it elevates my own personal racing so much, because you got to try to keep up with these guys.
And also has provided you really cool moments. Some of the drivers who have entered into this series, some of them are real-life counterparts. Carson Hocevar, a newer entry into the series. He's been around for a little bit, but he should be making his first start next Monday as a NASCAR Truck Series driver. Corey Heim is coming out of nowhere as a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver. And I know you mentioned to me a while ago that one of your favorite memories in this series was racing Bobby Labonte here at Indianapolis a couple of seasons ago. So it's all those experiences that gather up from new drivers, maybe one-off drivers, as we watch Mark Rabillis in the 99 go in for what I believe is his second attempt at a 4-lap average.
Yeah, Mark here you see just on the outside of the turns. That's not the line that you want for your take lap, but as you mentioned though, Kenneth, because I don't know how many people can say they did this in real life, or I guess no one can say they did it in real life. I don't think many people can say this in the sim world, but I've got to trade slide jobs with Bobby Labonte at Rockingham. I got to bang doors with Kyle Busch at Talladega. I got to bump draft with Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Daytona. And I got to go wheel to wheel at Indianapolis with Mario Andretti. All that came from this league right here, and it feels like every season you never really know who's going to show up at one race, 2 races, or say, hey, I'm going to commit to the entirety of the season. You never know who that guy is going to be that makes you go, wow, this is just a really cool league to be a part of, and be able to say, I race these guys in the sim world and then be able to go in my job as a media member at NASCAR races, then go and say hi and shake their hand in the real world as well, and just be able to say, yeah, I got to compete with them on the virtual level, because the Lord knows I'll never do it in the real life level.
Yeah, it's really cool to see those connections build over the community, and how unique a series like MNR is, with the connections and the drivers that make their starts. I mean, hey, Jerry Nadeau made his start back in season 5 when we had that Carolina Esports Hub championship finale, and Jerry Nadeau was there in person with a sim rig of his own, putting in laps and getting that race in. I know that race didn't go his way exactly, but for him to show up and to put in laps with the MNR community, it was certainly so cool to see. I mean, seeing a NASCAR driver in the flesh is always an exciting thing at any level or at anywhere whenever you see him. So here's Mark Villas, his last lap of 38.370, so on his final. And Devin, we're seeing a lot of guys looking to redo their laps. We're seeing a hefty line of cars. Next driver should be Michael Fisher, but one driver I am noticing personally is Chase Cabry. We saw him put a good enough time for the top 10 or so. He's been bumped off a little bit. I guess he wants a redo of his own as Urbillis crosses the line.
And that could be what Mark Urbillis is wanting, although I'm sure he did want that. I think he was thinking of that finish there, the big show at the finish there, since he took the track in the first place. That might be why he redid his lap. But Chase Cabry is someone who I was excited to race with, someone who ran in the ARCA Regional Series for a little bit. It's a name that you know, and I very quickly realized I didn't want to race with him, because last season he went out and was just absolutely incredible the first few races that he was in, and instantaneously you knew this is going to be a contender for the championship, and I expect no less this year out of Chase Cabry. And then we had Cole over the summer. I think both Cabrys are going to be guys to watch in this brand new championship knockout format. That's really going to be intriguing to watch, because no one's really tried anything like this at a very high level, especially in professional motorsports in the real world. But I'm really intrigued to see how it works with such a unique schedule like Monday Night Racing, and then put all those guys into basically this massive boxing match of races across disciplines of motorsports. So regardless of who you're looking for, though, both Cabrys, I think, have a shot at winning that championship.
And Cabry, one of the drivers who stood out, Devin, in that Gen 4 series during the summer, which we're going to see a lot of Gen 4 action this season. As soon as it was a happy little accident by iRacing, they kept it in and let everybody in the community have it. A high horsepower car modeled similarly to the former Gen 4s back in the day, although it was modeled after an 09 Nationwide Series Chevy Impala for Junior Motorsports, but still similar twisted sister body as the Gen 4 Cup cars, and you put so much power underneath the hood and it becomes a masterful car to drive in the sim. So we're going to see a lot of that, and drivers who are very good at that style of racing. And it's worth Chase Cabry, a name worth mentioning in that group, as Michael Fisher comes across for his redo time. And we do have around 15.5 minutes left in this session. We've got a long line of cars, Devin, looking to redo their 4-lap averages. So I guess it's going to get a little chaotic here as time winds down.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody's going to make it, Kenneth, but I was thinking earlier on in the evening when I was just kind of looking back and forth, I was going, you know, after sitting there and watching, I mean, when I have qualifying sessions like this, I will sit in their cockpit, watch them do a lap, and figure out what are they doing differently that's gaining them time over me. And so I would sit there, I'm watching, I'm thinking it's a no-brainer. If you're not maybe top 10, I'm going back out for another try. But the more we're seeing some of these drivers come out, and essentially what you have to do is give away your old time. It's not best time of the 2, best time of the 3. You are scrapping your first time, and this is the time that you are going to take, just kind of like what we see in Indianapolis in the real world. So the more drivers I've seen come out and maybe not put up the laps that they're really anticipating, I'm starting to think maybe if I did put up a top 20, top 15 lap, I don't know if I want to scrap that anymore. I'm just not seeing the speed that I think we saw some of these guys run, or at least what they expected compared to what they did earlier on. And we are in a static session right now, so the weather is not changing, and we're not really seeing the dynamics of the racecraft rise in level compared to, I think, what we saw earlier. Last time by for Fisher, a 37.921 time, and these guys, again, hovering around that 237 mile per hour mark.
and staying in that 37-second bracket. We'll see if he remains there. He does. This time faster than the last one, 37.904. So this is a good 4-lap average brewing for the 32 of Fisher, who I mentioned earlier in this show, a standout driver from the super speedway side of things in the Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. So really exciting to see what he can do in his first full try at a Monday Night Racing Pro Series season. But you brought up a fantastic point about the redos and the fact that it's not the best out of the two averages. It's whatever you do in that second average, whatever you do from that last average you put in is going to be the time that ends up on the sheet and is going to decide where you start. That was a last lap faster, and that 4-lap average for Fisher, 37.894, and that's going to put Fisher pretty high on the list. In fact, that'll put him at the top of the board, it appears. So the 32 will bump Monin Ramen from the top spot with 13 minutes to go.
So scrap everything that I said, because Fisher right there puts down exactly what you're looking for with these retries here. And I think maybe the best part of what we're doing here tonight compared to what you do in the real world is you do get fresh tires for these, and your engine is essentially put back to completely cool. So it's truly a complete redo in terms of how you're driving this car. Again, great execution here by Matt Stolnick. Almost tapped that grass there going through turn number 3. First lap coming across here for Stolnick. And again, another one of the guys here. Sometimes Matt has a good day, sometimes he has bad days, but it almost feels like you're never surprised when you're down to the latter portions of a race and this 41 car is somewhere around the top 10, top 5.
Yeah, we've seen this 41 car definitely be in contention at these larger tracks. And whenever these races come down to the wire, you're probably going to bet your dollar on the 41 of Matt Stolnick just because he always finds a way to be there at the end. And I saw so many magnificent things out of Stolnick in that Gen 4 series. I mean, being able to start basically shotgun of the field all the way at the rear and to slowly but surely chop his way through the field and be able to finish inside the top 5, top 10. It was absolutely brilliant stuff. This second lap, way faster than his first, 38.012 for Stolnick. So slowly but surely, he's got his improvements in check. We'll see what Stolnick can do on the second half of his 4-lap average. But Devin, I want to turn to your point about the drivers scrubbing their averages for these new ones. It turns into hand now, the conversation about having that track position for the actual race, because these drivers are not just putting 4-lap averages to be top of the board for no reason, right? That's going to be where they start next Monday night with the same combo, the IR01's here at Indianapolis. So you also put in the question, how important is track position in the actual race, so that these drivers are desperate enough to go for redo after redo here in qualifying.
And it is most certainly a different kind of car than what we've raced here previously, because these IR01's, first of all, they're a little bit longer. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but just the wheelbase in general, whether it be horizontal or vertical, feel bigger. And just the way that these cars sit down, grab the track, and propel you. I know that drafting, I think it's going to be even more of an emphasis than it was in previous years here. But I just don't know how much you're going to be able to pass, especially with the level of talent in this race. So you want to be up front. Track position is going to be very important, as opposed to maybe some other drafting tracks that we might see like with the next gen here in a couple of weeks. So it's really going to be vital to have that track position. As Stolnick goes P11 here, that's what you like to see. He got a little bit faster, it felt like every single lap compared to previously. And so Stolnick here just outside the top 10.
And P11 there for Stolnick. Fairly decent qualifying effort. His last lap was a 37.981, and here is the Tampa, Florida native of Chase Cabry. Was one of the first drivers, Devin, to go out for a 4-lap average, and so I guess he's noticed that some drivers have knocked him down the board further, and so he's going to try and take the throne back. And one of the Championship 4 drivers back in Season 6 of this series, and was able to win a couple of races in the Summer Series along with his brother Cole Cabry. Both of them lit up the charts near the end of that Summer Series. It was a lot of fun to watch them go to work. Cabry won at Daytona for the 2007 scan with the Next Gens on August 7th, and this first lap is a quick one, Devin, 37.923.
You love to see it. That's exactly what Cabry's looking for here. Already 240, not even halfway down the back straightaway. This one looks like a heater too. I thought he might have been able to get to 248 potentially there, but you see how he's just a little bit off that inside groove. I think that's kind of the sweet spot there. Not too close to that little grip strip, but you're still going to have that tire underneath that white line. Back down the straightaway here to complete lap number 2.
Crossing the yard of bricks. This one faster, 37.840. That clocked in at 237.844 miles an hour. So at this point, Chase Cabry is starting to elevate the intensity and starting to elevate the pressure to the rest of the field. As of the 2-lap average, he is faster than anyone in the field. But again, still needs those 2 laps. And Devin, I think that's what's so magical about these 4-lap averages at Indianapolis. You can't have a hot lapper, theoretically, in a format like this. You have to be so consistent and so sharp over 4 laps that even if you have a clean first 2, those other 2 are dirty, you probably won't have a time good enough for pole. But this one is faster again, 37.827 for Cabry.
That's exactly what you want. He's on the verge of 248 going down into turn number 1. And for Cole Cabry trying to get back atop the podium, and to your point, Kenneth, it doesn't matter if it's real world or in any random league. Qualifying pole in a session like this means more than almost anything else because it's so hard to put down 4 consecutive beautiful laps. Cabry might have it here with only 8 minutes left in qualifying.
Is this good enough to get the pole? 37.856, and as it clocks in, that is 237.708. That is top of the board. Quick time for the 39 of Chase Cabry.
And that is almost half of a tenth of a second, which is ridiculous to be saying that that's a big deal, right? I mean, come on, half a tenth of a second, but boy, oh boy, that's a really, really good lap there by Cabry. Looks like Sexton coming out of turn number 1 might have tagged the wall. He's going to put that car back on the pit road and try to reset there. I think he got a little bit too happy out of turn number 1, and that's where this track can bite you. It doesn't matter if it's aero tight or not. There's a really, really good way to find your way into the wall at this track.
But what a lap there for Cabry. What a 4-lap average with 7 minutes to go in this session. And we're going to decide who's going to be the next driver out on track. And I believe they're still waiting. But as time dwindles, every little bit matters. And next out on track is going to be the 98 of Presley Sora. This is going to be his 3rd effort, Devin. At a qualifying 4-lap average, he's as high as 13th on the qualifying order, but he desperately wants an improvement in. And the last time he went out over that first lap, I saw him shaking his head on the back straightaway. He knew that this average was not going to be as good as he wanted it to. Scrubbing up the tires here for turns 3 and 4 on the out lap for his first lap on this 3rd try.
And as a competitor in this series, there are select few drivers that I say I need to look at their onboard in practice, after a race, whatever the case is. I want to study this person, and this person at all different tracks. And Presley Sora is someone who, it doesn't matter the type of track, I'm going in and watching all the different ways that he makes his car tick, how he ticks inside the cockpit himself in order to get himself the speed that he has at every single track that we visit. It's someone who, when you go to any race of any sort, you expect to be there in contention for wins, and again, he will be fighting for a 2nd championship. I guarantee you that.
He scrubbed the grass there, or not the grass, but a little bit of the curbing there, and the turns 3 and 4 washed up the track, and that car darted near the outside wall. This is going to be his first lap, clocking in 38.108. So that is the 2nd slowest first lap that he's had over his 3 tries. His fastest first lap came in on the first attempt, 38.027. So for Sora, still a lot to improve. 236 miles an hour for the 98. And the Indiana native, former winner Devin here at Indianapolis, and I can imagine the pressure is definitely mounting when you're a former winner at your home track. There's nothing like defending that crown in that sense. So for Sora, he wants a big improvement this time by. Will he get it? He will cross the line, and the answer will be a definite yes, 37.999.
Indy native, he's grown up racing go-karts in the infield here at IMS. Just doesn't seem to have the raw speed that Cabry had, going about 245, 246 into 1 and 3. So it doesn't look like it's going to be pole time, but again, it always feels special when we race at Phoenix Raceway occasionally in the street stock, in the truck, whatever it might be. That's my track. That's where you want to go out and perform, even if it's just in a computer. It's not even the real world. It's somewhere that you want to go and compete and be one of the top drivers. And when you grow up, it doesn't matter any level of the sport. If you're racing at IRP or at Indianapolis for the Indy 500, it does not matter. Every driver that's born in the state of Indiana wants to win here in the real world, and in the sim world too.
Oh, I can imagine Indiana natives go absolutely bonkers over Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it means so much to them. The heritage, the history of the Indianapolis 500, a family history that may have ties to that big race, the greatest spectacle in racing that happens every Memorial Day weekend. And I know for me, whenever I go to Homestead and Miami Speedway, I want to ball out. That's all I'm saying. I want to be the fastest on the track. Now, am I? Usually no, but that's a different story. That's a topic for another time. 37.987 for Sora. He put in his fastest lap out of all 3 tries on lap 3, 37.952. And so this puts him at an average of 236.770, and that should be a big improvement. So that's P6 for driver 98.
I don't think that's where he wants, but 10th and a half off the pole time. Can't complain one bit. And if you can start in the first 3 rows next Monday night, that's going to be very helpful in trying to bring home the season opening win in Monday Night Racing Season 7.
And for Sora, he'll come across the line. Not sure whether that's actually going to clock in as his fourth lap, as we'll get another driver out on track. So Brandon Brown, once more taking center stage, and driver number 12 will get official confirmation on the laps by Presley Sora. It appears he put 5 in. I'm not sure if that first lap was really an out lap or whether that actually will count towards his total. So we'll keep you updated on that part as Brown comes across for turns 1 and 2. A little bit of a tight exit there off the corner. And I've seen a lot of guys, Devin, in this first half of the racetrack get so close to that outside wall. Not sure whether it's just the way the wind is blowing, the way this track is, and how fast you're going. But turn 1 seems to be a pretty deep trouble spot for the field this evening.
And as I mentioned earlier, how vital it is to hit that corner entry just right. It can also just be the way that you had that steering wheel tilted, how late or how early you entered. I mean, pushing up into the wall out of turn number 1 is so simple to do based on your entry. And after you enter the corner, it doesn't matter what you do after that. You're just holding on. We saw it in the real world during qualifying too for the 500. When you just have a little bit too much on corner exit at turn number 1, you just buckle up and you figure out if you're going to bang that wall or not. You're either going to slide off it or maybe you'll be okay, but you know coming off of turn number 1 whether or not you're going to smash that wall or not. There's nothing you can do.
You know, I don't know, Devin, if you heard Colin Fern's interview earlier tonight where he said he didn't want to be a blank and lift in turns 1 and 2, and hence why he hit the outside wall and his lap average was completely forfeited, and he's not even going to go try again because he wants to do a back-to-front challenge next Monday. But, I mean, you took the words right out of that interview where he said, I am not going to lift, and I don't care what happens, whether I hit the outside wall or not. Brandon Brown, his second lap is going to come in. He continues to put laps. That was a 38.106. So not the greatest there for Brown, but it is faster than his first. And next up on the track is Nick Olsen. But Devin, we're inside the final minute. So that may be the final run of the night here in qualifying.
Yeah, you're just hoping that whoever can get off track as soon as possible. Because, yeah, we're in the closing seconds here. So I'm not sure if we're going to get one more driver in or not. It's Brown again. Boy, oh, so tight. And to Colin Fern's point, you can't lift because you're still going to hit the wall anyway or at least ruin your lap. So you might as well stick in it.
Yeah, you got to do what you can, especially as the waning seconds come around here at Indianapolis. Nick Olsen is on track. He just put his first lap, 38.04, and it's a 38.122 third lap there for Brown. He'll come across the final set of corners here at Indianapolis. Cross of the stripe for the final time this evening for him, 38.3, and Nick Olsen puts in a 38.04 as his second lap. So 2 more here for Nick Olsen. Time will expire here at the Brickyard, and we will get official confirmation, and it's a 38.059 for Nick Olsen on lap 3.
Looking for some Rainbow Warrior magic here. Nick Olsen is right now slotted into that P17 position, about 0.2 of a second off of Cole Cabry's pole time. But at this point, you are just trying to slot in wherever you can and have that advantage when that green flag drops and have yourself in the best position to chase that season opening win next week.
Olsen out of turn 4. Checkered flag in the air. Here from Indianapolis, final 15 seconds on a secondary timer. And that lap, it appears, did not officially clock in. We'll get official confirmation from MNR officials. But right now, it is Chase Cabry on his second attempt at a 4-lap average with the pole here at Indianapolis.
And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you do it in the real world, whether you do it in the smallest league on iRacing. Winning a pole in this kind of format, putting down consecutively 4 tremendous laps is a feat. And being able to say that you are the best in a group like this, it means a lot. And you know that Chase Cabry is going to be one to beat next Monday night for the season opener.
And to do it on your second try, Devin, I mean, that must mean more than doing it on your first. It means that he had to completely abandon whatever laps he put down the first time and completely toss it to the side and say, hey, I want a fresh set, and I know this is going to be way better than the last. Chase Cabry proved it and put times all in the 37-second bracket. I believe the only driver tonight to do that other than Michael Fisher and Monin Rahman. And the 39 of Chase Cabry will be at the point when we get back to Indianapolis 1 week from tonight on Monday, October 9th. Devin, that was a lot of fun, and I know that you joined us a little late in the broadcast actual show. We went on for a little while before we brought you in, but I mean, so much excitement. That was a lot of fun and some drama here at the Brickyard.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, every time that we've qualified at this track, my heart is pumping unlike any other race that we go to when it's just put down your best lap of 2. I can't imagine the nerves of trying to put down 4 consecutive burners here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway because it's just intense. Every time you dive into that corner at 247 miles per hour, again, you feel that speed here at Indianapolis, even on the sim. So it doesn't matter if you're the driver, if you're the viewer, watching this, driving this, whatever it is, boy, it is an intense feeling inside the cockpit and watching someone like Chase Cabry put down 4 nearly perfect laps, and he'll lead us to green next Monday night.
I'm sure that Chase Cabry is one happy camper. We'll get a chance to talk to him before we wrap up our coverage tonight on Podium Esports. Chase, 237.708. That's your 4-lap average in miles per hour, and that is going to put you on the pole for next Monday. Give us your experience and your thoughts about getting that 4-lap average to the top.
Yeah, qualifying is so important, especially in these cars at this place. It's so draft oriented, but you get so tight behind people that it makes it very tough to come through the field. So track position is huge, and then Michael was second there, so that's good. So I think we'll be pretty good for next Monday. I'm sure it'll be a lot of people, getting runs down the straightaway and passing, leapfrogging and stuff like that. But once you're up front, I feel like it's pretty easy to maintain the first 3 spots and try not get put behind, early in the race. Because like I said, it is so tough at this place to be able to come through the field. Track position is just key.
And I'm sure as well that the decision to go out one more time wasn't really an easy one. You went out for the first 4 and it was a solid lap average. But what made you decide to come back out on track and do it all over again? And how confident were you that the second time was going to be better than the first?
Yeah, I was definitely really confident in the second one. I sat there and saw I was third, and I said, well, I'll either go for it, and then I sat there and waited, and I started falling. I was like 6 or so, and I was like, all right, I got to go now. So I went and got in line and was able to go back out and put together 4 solid laps.
You went out that second time, and that risk, definitely worth it. You're going to be leading the field to green on October 9th, next Monday, as we take these IR01's and put them all together here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Chase, on behalf of our entire broadcast team at Podium Esports, congratulations on winning the pole for the opening race of Season 7, and we'll see you next Monday. There's only one thing to do, and that's race. Congratulations once again.
I appreciate it. We'll see y'all.
The Tampa, Florida native of Chase Cabry to the top of the board at his average that was blistering fast And what a qualifying night it was from Indianapolis. So many redos, some chaos, some emotion, some drama. But it is Chase Caber in the 39 who will lead the field to green for the Season 7 opener of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series here on Podium Esports. That'll do it for us here from Indy. So for Ford Martin and everyone at Monday Night Racing, for Paul Sutton and Michael Hall in Race Control, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore at Podium Esports, for our camera builder Dougie Beard, our overlay builder Michael Hall, for Cameron Aubernon on Podium Esports social media, and for our crew on the broadcast tonight, for our producer Ryan Bauer, and for my colleague in the booth this evening, Devin Henry, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Season 7 of MNR starts next Monday night. We'll see you there.